Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the November 28, 2023 meeting.
Microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. My fault. Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting of the Green Valley Special Utility District Board of Directors meeting to order. We've established a quorum. There's no one absent today. Would you all please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Would you bow your heads? Heavenly Father, we come before you today in humility and faith. We thank you for all you have given us and the many blessings in our lives. We ask for your guidance and strength. Show us the way and fill us with courage and wisdom. Help us to remember your love and grace and to be faithful in our service to you. Give us the patience and understanding to face life's challenges with grace. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. I'm sorry, Sam, public comment. Okay, we're going to go right into public comment. GVSUD welcomes public participation. If you're unable to attend the meeting, a written comment can be emailed or delivered to GVSUD's public information officer with your name and the topic or agenda item that you wish to address, or delivered to GVSUD's office located here in Marion. Written comments must be submitted and received no later than 3 p.m. on November the 27th. Please remember that public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Time may not be shared or ceded to another citizen. Mr. Gary Rose.
Good morning, Gary Rose, 224 Green Valley Loop, Cibolo, Texas. Up here this morning without notes, so I hope I get through this. I just wanted this morning to congratulate Mr. Sherman and Mr. Robinson on your re-election, and also congratulate Sherry on her election for the first time. I was worried there for a while it was going to be 7 men up there, and I'm glad that Sherry got voted to keep you 6 under control, and I appreciate that. The other thing I'd like to say is, Christy, we probably have never agreed on very many things other than how good Pam cooks food. But I want to tell you, appreciate your service to Green Valley. Like I said, we didn't agree very often, but you were always with me, professional, always responding to my questions, responded to my emails, and that is much appreciated. I wish you all the luck in whatever you decide to spend all your spare time now on. But we'll let you know if you decide to come back to a board meeting. I need somebody sitting with me on the back row. But again, thank you very much for your service, Christy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rose. We're going to modify a little bit the agenda. We're going to administer the oath of office to Ms. Sherry McDaniel. And then we're going to immediately recognize Ms. Christina Miller for her service. So I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. DeFrancesco and for the oath.
Okay, can y'all hear me through the mic? Good. All right. All of the newly elected members should have a oath of office and a statement of officer in front of them. So if you'd like to follow along with me on reading that, we're going to start with the oath of office. It's I, your name.
Do we need to stand?
Stand. We stand.
What are you doing? Come on. Get up here.
In the spotlight now. All right, once again, we're starting with the oath of office. I, your name,
Nicholas Sherman,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
of Green Valley Special Utility District
of Green Valley Special Utility District
of the state of Texas
of the state of Texas
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve,
and will to the best of my abilities preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States.
and of this state, so help me God.
So help me God.
And please sign that. We will have it notarized by notary. Next is the statement of officer. I, your name,
Nicholas Sherman,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I have not directly or indirectly
that I have not directly or indirectly
paid,
paid,
offered,
offered,
promised to pay,
promised to pay,
contributed,
contributed,
or promised to contribute
or promised to contribute
any money or thing of value,
any money or thing of value,
or promised any public office
or promised any public office
or employment
or employment
for the giving or withholding
for the giving or withholding
of a vote at the election
of a vote at the election
at which I was elected,
at which I was elected,
or as a reward
or as a reward
to secure my appointment
to secure my appointment
or
or
confirmation,
confirmation,
whichever the case may be,
whichever the case may be.
so help me God.
So help me God.
All right, thank you.
Got it.
He's got it.
Yeah.
I've been spying on his notes. That's my note.
Yeah, you're up here now. You're with us now. Don't sit down, Miss Christina. Philip, I'm gonna continue you. Hard.
Well, Christina, as Mr. Rose said, we're happy. Your time here was great. You've been here 9 years. I've only been here a little over 2, so you've been here 4 times longer than me. So, I have a small glimpse into your time served here, but what I have seen while you're here, you're very public service minded. You're very thoughtful. As Mr. Rose said, I think no matter what, you always gave insight and thought to your decisions here. One thing that I personally appreciate is every decision I saw that you always had staff in your thoughts. That is a lot of times kind of what people forget about. We're here to serve the public. We have a board of directors, but a lot of times staff may get forgotten about in decisions. An organization is only good as its people, and I appreciate that you thought about us. You thought about what we may need to attract the best talent here, to have good facilities, and we appreciate we recognize your time and your thoughts on us here. So as a token of our appreciation, presenting you, and I'll let you be the one to hold it. I don't want to potentially drop it. This is a plaque in honor of your service here.
Hold it up.
Yes.
Let me see.
I don't public speak well, so. 9 years ago, I was asked many times by many people if I would run in the election for GVSUD. I didn't want to at first, but I did it anyways because I didn't believe that I would win. When the final votes were announced and I was shocked and scared because I didn't want to win. I was shy, was definitely not a public speaker, nor did I like sitting in front of people. I would have never volunteered to make a speech ever. 9 years later, being on the board has definitely changed me in ways I never thought it would. I am so thankful that I have had 3 elections worth of information that I've learned about GVSUD and how water and wastewater work. I am thankful for all the board members I have had the privilege of serving with all 9 years, even when we disagreed at times. I am very thankful for the friends I have made during this time. I am sad to leave, and I will definitely miss this part of my life. But my husband and I are starting a new chapter in our life. We will soon to be empty nesters, and I can't wait to enjoy more adventures we make going forward. GVSUD has been a huge part of my world for so long. I just want to give a huge shout out to my amazing husband for always being there with his support, shoulder to cry on when I was frustrated and needed to vent, and for always standing by my side when people talked bad about me, even when they didn't know me. I couldn't have done this without him or my 2 wonderful kids that couldn't be here today because they're working, who supported me, pushed me to start this journey, and always had my back. So thank you. Thank you, GVSUD staff and employees, for always being great people and working so hard for a great company. Last but certainly not least, the amazing ratepayers. I want to thank them for voting for me for 3 terms, and am so thankful for the time I had to make changes to hopefully better their experience as ratepayers. Thank you, every single one of y'all. And you're gonna do great. So, thanks.
Thank you.
I'd like to open it up to the board. Any director like to make a comment?
I'll echo, really, Mr. Rose's comments and Philip's comments. Christy, you and I have not agreed on everything, but you have always spoken to me. You have always conveyed your thoughts with me. You've always entertained my thoughts. And I think that's the way this is supposed to work. And I appreciate what you've done. It's been a long time you've been on this board. And Green Valley has come a long way through ups, downs, thick, thin, the good and the bad. And you're right, it is a big part of your life. And I hope you guys have fun moving forward, doing what you want to do and not being anchored with meetings here and there. And come back and visit us when you can, please.
I want to say thank you. You and I, didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we always kept it professional, and you have made a difference here, and it is noticed. And I know as the board, appreciate all the time that you spent, that you've committed to it. And I know from just me saying thank you, it means a lot to see people like you step up and commit as much as you have. So thank you.
I know at the beginning, you and I butt heads a little bit, but we were put on the facilities committee together, and I think we got to know each other a lot better, and we got to see eye to eye. And I mean, we might not always vote the same, but we had a very good professional and personal relationship. I appreciate that for all the good things you did with facilities committee and just being on the board for as long as you were. It takes a lot to stick something out that long when you absolutely don't have to. You're doing it out of the goodness of your heart and your desire to help people. And everyone appreciates it. I appreciate it. I'm sure the board does, and the ratepayers definitely appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
And it goes without saying, my feelings. 3 years ago, I didn't know up from down coming on this board. You were one of the people that stepped up and helped me adjust and become a useful, functional member of this board. And like I have said off microphone, I'm not going to lose your phone number because your experience is too valuable to just go away.
Well, I didn't really have a chance to work with you. I have seen you over the course of the 6 months that I've been attending the meetings. And I really just want to say I appreciate you reaching out to me and encouraging me and offering your help and your services or any questions that I have. That meant a lot. And just really encouraging another woman to get on the board behind you also meant a lot. And I wish you the best of luck in no matter what you do. And I hope that I can follow in your footsteps.
Thank you, Ms. McDaniel. Finally, I can only share what I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna miss the hours at CRWA, sitting in those meetings, eating crappy food, trying to stay awake till 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. Your comments I always valued. Your input was always important to me. And I can't tell you personally how grateful I am for you helping to mentor me and bring me up and do the things that need to be done. Thank you for everything, Ms. Miller. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'd like to move on to item 5, election of officers. So at this time, I am going to step down as president and turn the meeting over to our attorney, Shan Rutherford. Shan?
Morning, everybody. I'm just stepping in for the board president for just this one first vote, which is related to electing a president of GBSUD for the coming year. First, I'll entertain nominations, and then after receiving nominations, entertain a motion, and we'll go one at a time. We'll go in alphabetical order.
I'll nominate John Frias for board president.
Okay, any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Steve Cooper to continue as president.
All right, are there any other nominations? Okay, the nominations are closed, and we'll start with Mr. Cooper. Is there a motion to elect Steve Cooper as the president of GBSUD for the coming year?
Could you clarify that? I'm not sure what you're asking. Are you asking for a motion to?
I'm asking for a motion because there has to be an affirmative vote. So there has to be a motion and a second and a vote, just the exact way we normally do these things.
I'll make a motion to vote for Steve Cooper for president.
Okay. Is there second by Britt King? Okay. And let's do a roll call vote. Starting on the left, we've got Mr. King is yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
So that failed 3-4 is my calculation. Is there
I'll make a motion to
go ahead.
nominate, appoint John Frias as board president.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Second by James Hendricks. Okay. Mr. King?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That motion carries. So Mr. Frias is the board president, and I'm turning the meeting over to Mr. Frias.
Thank you, Shan. So at this time, we have the election of the vice president and
I'd like to nominate, so we go through nominations again. Shan, is that what you want to do? Okay, I'd like to nominate Steve Cooper for vice president.
I decline.
okay, so Mr. Cooper is declining. Do I have any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate myself for vice president.
Okay, is there any other nominations?
Do you have any interest?
I'd like to nominate Nick Sherman.
Okay,
I decline.
Sherman declines. Okay, so
I'll nominate Britt King for vice president.
okay, Mr. King declines.
I nominate Sherry McDaniel for vice president.
Okay, so Ms. Sherry, do you accept the nomination or do you decline that as well?
I guess if everyone else is going to decline, I accept.
So we have Bob Robertson's and Sherry McDaniel as nominations. Do I have a motion for Either of them.
I make a motion to appoint Sherry McDaniel vice president.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. King?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay, Sherry McDaniel is the vice president. Going on to item C, secretary treasurer. Do I have a nomination for secretary treasurer?
I'll nominate James Hendricks for secretary treasurer.
Do I have a second or another nomination? Okay, no other nominations. Do I have a motion for James Hendricks being secretary treasurer?
Motion for James Hendricks to be appointed secretary treasurer.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, secretary treasurer, James. Okay, we already did recognition of past board member, Miss Christina Miller. Moving on to tabled items from October 26, 2023 consent agenda items. They were in the packet.
I'll make a
And-
motion to take item 7 off the table.
Okay. Taking item 7 off the table.
A second.
Okay, have a second. Any discussion? Oh, we have to have a discussion.
Catching up with my notes. We're taking item 7 off table.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
we have to have discussion. Is there any discussions? Oh, sorry. All in favor, take number 7 off the table.
Aye.
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 Okay, number 7's off the table. Do we have a motion to approve item 7 or discussion?
I want to have quick discussion. This is the new format. I believe Pam, I'm asking you, is that correct? Sorry, didn't mean to make you run up here. But this is the new format based on the new
This is
system?
the system we are currently on. This will not, as y'all know, this will not probably remain the same format. As far as how it looks, I'm not real happy with how it looks. There's some things I'd like to change on it, but this is what the system produces, and I'm working with our auditor to make to do adjustments and changes.
The one question I had, and I think I know the answer, but 300,903 and 300,904 are identical from last year and this year. That's just the cost of those leases? Okay.
Yes, yes, those will be identical. Yes, sir.
Any other questions, concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve item 7 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. King. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No? Okay,
Unanimous.
unanimous.
I'll make a motion to take item 8 off the table.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, item 8's off the table. Any discussions concerning item 8? No, do I have a motion on item 8? Consent agenda.
James, you want a motion? I know this
I'm
was your
sorry,
baby.
I was catching up with my notes. I'll make a motion that we approve the consideration of the proposed GBSUD electronics device policy from October 26, 2023 Board of Directors meeting and take action as necessary.
Second.
Okay, so I know, Ms. Garrity, we have that to be talked about today, correct? The electronic device policy, we're gonna be talking about that as well today, right? Yes, that's,
You want to talk, if you have.
you want to talk about it now or,
Approve it.
okay. Yeah, right now, that's fine. This side. I thought she was gonna talk about the policy status memo. That's fine, yeah, that's fine.
Good
Hi.
morning, board members. In your packet as item number 8 is the revised electronic devices policy. I took all the notes that were captured on the video and applied them to this policy. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding the revisions.
Everything that I commented on was included in there. Have you done any feedback with the staff of either version of it? Do they?
We had feedback
guess-
from the staff initially.
Okay.
And then we got the board members' feedback, and then all of that was implemented into this policy. If this policy is approved today, then what we'll do before it's implemented is we will hold a training, all hands training for the staff, for them to be able to go through this and ask any questions that they may have, so we can have any clarifications. And I believe what the board has also asked is if there was any concerns or any other feedback, that I would bring that to the acting GM, and he would bring that to the board of any of that before this is implemented. Is that still what you'd like?
And we're good to go on that.
The
No
o-
other comments?
The only issue I saw before, which is now corrected, was that we did not have the hands-free policy. It was pretty much when they got in their vehicle, they couldn't touch the phone, but I see it's been changed in this.
Yes, it has.
That was the big issue that I had from before.
And I changed some shalls to may, and reiterated in a few other paragraphs that it was the general manager's discretion on any type of counseling, disciplinary, anything of that nature.
I just had one small comment that I noticed. On the very last section of it, under termination or resignation of employment,
Okay.
just the very last sentence of
Yes.
that. So you're talking about terminated and employees who resign to turn in their devices. Just the last line says failure to comply with this policy may result in loss of privileges, disciplinary action, or termination. Well, they're already
Yes,
been
that needs
terminated.
to come out. Thank you.
So you would suggest striking that entire last sentence?
Correct.
Or should that just go as a? No, let's.
Well, it's
not-
already under the termination and resignation.
Right. It's in all of those underlying paragraphs. That one, it doesn't make sense if they're already resigning employment or if they're terminating. So thank you for catching that.
Thank you.
And then last question for you, and I'll need to modify my motion to capture that comment, Sherry. When we provide this, we're documenting, we're getting staff to sign off that they've read and received a copy of this, all that good stuff. Okay.
Yes, that would happen after the training. They'll go through the training. There'll be attendance for the training to make sure we capture it all. And then they'll sign. If there's any feedback of concern or anything of that nature, then we will hold off. I will bring that to Philip, and then he will discuss that with you guys and see if we want to move forward with signing or if we want to hold off and address the concerns.
I had one comment to back to that last sentence. You know, failure to comply has to have some consequences, right? So I don't think we should strike it altogether, but
Somewhere else in the-
for the cost of the device, if they don't return it, they owe us for the device. I mean, if there's no consequences to returning the equipment, why are they going to return the equipment?
For replacement value, yeah.
So we probably put something in there to that
Just
effect.
modify that one. Okay.
Mr. King, would you be comfortable with giving Philip authority to
Yes.
find a sentence to strike the last sentence to Sherry's point, and then Philip, I think, and Samantha, you guys understand the
Right.
intent
And we
here.
can find some verbiage. We'll get with HR. I believe that there may be limitations on what, like you could payroll doc something for their last paycheck, but we'll look into that. We'll make sure that everything's compliant and we'll add something to that final sentence.
And to be clear, this is only if an employer refuses to give it back, correct?
Or if they turn in a device and it's damaged.
I understand. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Any other questions, feedback?
James, you're gonna have to modify your motion to capture
Thank you.
the comments of the bookends
Sorry.
here.
Okay. I motion to approve the proposed GVSUD electronic device policy from October 26, 2023, including the changes that we just mentioned, and authorizing the acting general manager to make the final approval. Is that good in verb?
Second, I like it.
All right, so a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to tabled item 9.
Make a motion to take item 9 off the table.
A second, all approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any questions on September 30th balance sheet from October?
So Pam, on this one, there were additional duplicated year-over-year items that weren't on the previous month. So we've got the 903, I'm sorry, the 9003, the 9004 were both duplicated as we discussed on the earlier. But then 5, 6, 7, 15, 16, 17 were also duplicated exactly the figure from year to year. Is that correct?
That is correct for now. We're still making modifications and there'll probably be some additional adjustments for year end. Once our auditor goes over it, because we're still going through our accounts to make sure everything did transfer over correctly.
Just as long as it's supposed to be that way. And it
Yes,
wasn't
yes. For a lot of that stuff right now, it will be the same until the end of the year when adjustments are made.
Any other questions, concerns? Okay, do I have a motion?
motion to approve item 9 as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, second by Mr. King. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, unanimous. Okay, moving on to November 28th consent agenda. Agenda item 10, all items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the board and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which case the items will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered and action taken as necessary as part of the order of business. Do I have any requests to take any of them out?
I have a brief comment on item C and item D, if we can pull those.
Okay, pulling C and D. Do I have a motion for A, B, E, and F?
I'll make a motion to approve items 10A, B, E, and F as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Sherman for A, B, E, and F, and then seconded by Mr. Robinson. All in favor for those to be approved, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay, so those are approved. Okay, Mr. Sherman, you had questions on C and D.
Item C, just a couple questions. At a high level, some of our items, Philip, I mean, we're smoking the budget in month 1, specifically our insurance policies. Did those just come in over what we estimated?
Those came in a little bit higher than estimated, but we also don't get those numbers till after the budget's approved. So
Okay.
that will have to go through a budget amendment for anything that's overage on those.
But then specifically the liability insurance, the property insurance, the vehicle, and the workman's comp, those are annual payments that are done.
Yes, these are done. What you see here is completed. The only other thing that could change is the bond payments, because those do come in at different times for our surety bonds, director bonds, and so forth.
Okay. As I always do, Philip, I'm pinching pennies and fussing about the numbers, but anything over 8%, we're over already. So please keep an eye on those. On sheet 5, there was one error, I believe, under non-construction capital expenses, the warehouse fixtures and equipment. We spent $23,000. We budgeted 12, but our
Yes.
percentage still shows 0.
I'll have to have that double check that figure. And yes, we did go over budget. When we first came to y'all with the budget, the warehouse said, the gentleman said, we need this for our warehouse. Now we're starting to also get sewer operation materials now, and we did not have a place to store them or racks to store them on. So we ordered additional racks. Yes, that's for actually two whole racks and then some additional racks where they added another level and also had got some heavy duty pallets to store materials on. And there may be other stuff we do need for the warehouse, but we're just trying to slowly figure out what we need and then come back to y'all with that.
Yeah, just be cognizant. It's
Mhm.
not a huge dollar, but I hate that percentage that's.
Right. It is, it's like you said, it's not a huge dollar, but it is over the budget. Yes, sir.
And then on item D, there were a few items that I had flagged. The biggest one I want to ask about is what's going on with the $900 cow?
I'm not 100% sure of the details on that, but there was a leak that was fixed and I believe something was not done properly and either the fencing the cow knocked the fencing down, or I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the cow did fall into the ditch and expired. And so when they went to the sale market to purchase another one, that's what it cost for them to replace that cow.
I've never seen anything like that happen, so it's not
It,
like it's happening every Tuesday, but it's just an unusual
Right.
charge.
it happened, we haven't, I don't think we've had that happen probably in at least 15, 16 years, if even
Not
that.
since I've been here.
Okay, then it's probably been longer than that. Our guys are usually very careful about how they do their ditches and marking them and keeping them roped off. But cows are not real the smartest creatures on the earth, so sometimes they just
Okay.
keep going.
And then my last question is DBM landscape and construction or landscaping, is that?
That is our mowing, taking care of our here at the office.
Okay, because at some time ago, we bought a $15,000 lawnmower that when I was discussing it, should we buy this or not, the reason we need it was for maintenance of this office. So,
And I wish I could answer that, but I'd have to defer that to Philip.
Right, and it was determined that maintaining this building with all of the flower beds and things that we have, that it would be better to have a professional maintain it than have staff maintain it.
I typically agree with you on that. I just don't know why we have a high-end piece of equipment that.
Well, that was also for the right of ways and the
Mhm.
easements. So
We
that was
have another
integrated
use
into
for
other
it where it's
stuff.
not
For
just parked
maintaining
somewhere.
our plants and easements
Okay.
as well.
The wastewater, we mow our own lawn at the
Yes,
wastewater.
we
plant,
we do take care of the wastewater plant. on our-
Which would be why we need a writing. I don't know,
Yeah.
but we need a 15.
So as long as we still have a use for it, I'm okay with it, but I wasn't.
DBM
wasn't sure.
landscaping is purely for this
And
building.
on the other side of it, we don't have the gentlemen that do the mowing are also our water operators or sewer operators. So we don't have a maintenance crew that's what they do.
And then on this format, is
Mhm.
this going to be what we see moving forward, or will this change, you think, as well?
This may change a little bit in the format, but I do like the fact that we are putting more detail in it, along with what you're seeing also is per invoice. So as the checks, you see the check, there's huge listings of everything and smaller amounts to the side. That is actually the cost, each invoice that was entered. And so I believe talking with Philip, this point moving forward, we will try to maintain that type of detail.
And in general, I like that too. This it mirrors CRWA's check registered.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
More closely. I like it. So.
Okay.
Okay, is there any more questions or concerns on C and D? Nope.
I'd like to make motion to approve items 10, C, and D.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. King. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Moving on. Okay, agenda item 11, here updates on the below items from GVHD general manager, staff, engineers, and committee chairs, and take action as necessary. A, business and operations. Number 1, acting GM, Mr. De Francesco.
Board members, you should have a memo in your packet. If you would like to go into any further detail, I will go into it now. One thing I want to touch on, go ahead.
This is a great memo. This is useful information, concise. This is a great memo.
Right. It kind of mirrors what we talked about with just in the last few items with Pam and going over the formatting of the items that were given to you. I want to talk about our enterprise software. I did make the executive committee aware of the decision that Green Valley Special Utility District will not be moving forward with the process to NISC. It was brought to my attention by staff members, by pretty much every staff member that was involved with this project, that it was not operating as we were initially told it was going to operate. And while we had spent some money in it, it was imperative that we stop the process before further funds were spent on it as well. In my opinion, a larger thing was that we didn't want to risk our ratepayers having a fairly negative experience. The initial go live for customer service was on December 5th. And the updates that I received was that it was not going to function well. I think Green Valley has done a lot of work. Staff has put in a lot of time and effort into improving our customer relations. I think in the last year or two, we've shown marked improvement. And my concern was that this was going to negate all of the progress that we had made on that front. In addition to just the enterprise software not operating properly for our functions.
Just a question real quick. Do you intend to direct staff to go out and to research other enterprise software that could perhaps?
We are. So when we initially started this process to look, it was because our current enterprise software was purchased by, we use a software called Logix, and it was purchased by Edmunds Gov. And at that point, that initiated the start to look for another piece of software. Right now, we're going to remain with Logix. It is received an update in the last month, is what I was told. So it's not abandoned yet by the manufacturer. Now there are plans. I don't know what that date is or what their time schedule is to abandon the Logix software or, have everybody transition to the Edmunds software. That may be something that we look into. Staff will be directed to look. I'll have to look and see what kind of time frame we're on before, assigning those resources to look into it. But at this point, we're going to stay with Logix where we're at.
I think we have no choice at this point.
Right.
I have one comment too, on the, investments that are at Marion State Bank. This report that we got, I'm assuming does not reflect those changes yet,
That should is
as of October 31st. So,
then no, it does not.
right. And I just want to make sure there's not any more room for improvement on this report. It seems like there might be some more. I don't know what the uses of the
Just
cash.
yesterday, we also moved some operating money into Logix, which is at 5%. But
Perfect.
the main thing is we talked about different banks. We did get quotes from 3 different banks on where to move that money. All were comparable within, a couple tenths of a percentage of each other. And with the relationship that we had with Marion State Bank, we decided to stay with Marion State Bank, but we were able to get those funds transferred into a higher interest bearing account.
This is great work. I know the investments committee had looked into this and made suggestions, but $241,956 by simply moving money. That's real money that we can use for projects. We can use to buy racks. We can use to buy our new whatever enterprise software we need to get into. This is good work to get the most for Green Valley's ratepayers simply by moving some money around. So while I'm not terribly excited, we hadn't done that for I don't know how long. We're doing it moving forward, and that's the best use of our money moving forward. So this is good work in a short amount of time.
I wanted to add, I was going to say in my memo, but I want to add that we need to thank Mr. Britt King for this. With his diligence at looking at all of our accounts and everything that we had, he noticed that we could be getting a lot more interest off of a very large sum of money. So this is pretty much because Britt King brought this to our attention, and I greatly appreciate that. I'm really loud, I'm sorry. So he needed to be recognized for that. And for staff for implementing, thank you. For the enterprise software, at the very beginning, I commented about this, how this could potentially be a disaster, switching from one system to another system. And I was assured by staff, and I'm just looking at you because you're in the seat right now. I was assured by staff that this wouldn't be an issue, that we would be able to handle it, that we would be able to transition. And yet here we are. So what I would like to know, is this a staff problem? Is it staff just didn't get trained? Or is this a software problem where they did not provide the training, or they overstated how easy it would be for this software to come in? And I think that we need to know that answer, because it does cost us money, but you are saving us money by us not going down this rabbit hole, which we would potentially just be dumping more and more money into. So what was the underlying cause? Why did this happen?
I can't comment on the staff training.
That's fair, yeah.
What I was told was that the software maybe we were promised things that weren't necessarily the most accurate. Trying to think, that's my political way of saying it. I think if you were to sum it up into one sentence, it would be that the software company provides services to electric companies, and we should have done a better job of seeing if this would sync very well with a water utility company. That may be understating the issues, but overall, it was determined that it was not a good fit for us. There were issues with responsiveness from the software team. I've experienced this in the past with other jobs where you go to a new enterprise software and they want the staff of their customer to participate in the building or writing of that software. And, we're limited. We're a water utility company. We're not a software company. So I think there was a lot of burden put on Green Valley staff that should not have been. And I think that ties back into what I said earlier about if we were an electric company, it would have been a little bit more plug and play. And for our case, that was not the case.
Okay.
I may say too, it's a common practice, and I observed this throughout my career. A vendor like that comes in, over promises, under delivers. So it's just a fact of the business, and we have to go find another vendor, forearmed. We're a little more cognizant to listen closely to what the vendor comes in their presentations.
This is an expensive lesson, but it is a learning lesson, and staff
Better now
will
than
be
later.
much more diligent when the time comes to look at future enterprise software.
I didn't mean to blast staff. I already kind of did some research and I figured it was the training that wasn't given and they overstated, the software team overstated what it could do and how easy it would be to implement it into our system. I held no fault to staff. I think it's really just the manufacturer. They just overstated what they can do. And unfortunately, we found out that they couldn't meet those expectations. So thank you, sir.
And I'd just like to add, this is a good job by coming to Philip and telling him, hey, this isn't going to work. We don't need to throw good money after bad and just cut bait now and figure out something else. Now we have to go through the process again of figuring out what we do. Like you said, if the, what was the new name of the software?
Edmunds is
If
the
the
name. for
Edmunds software is suitable, maybe we look at that. If it's not going to be suitable and we need to find a completely alternate software system, we have to go through that effort again, but it's better to do that now than spend the extra 170 or whatever it was going to cost to implement it. And then a year and a half later, scrap it and start over.
Right.
So,
And as we do with other bids of projects we have, the software will look into that and we'll have to put weight on the fact that at least with Logix / Edmunds, while the software itself may not be necessarily a 100% known quantity, we do have experience with their customer service. And said this was a learning experience. Good value on the customer service side of software.
Okay, on the broker RFQ, where are we on that one? Now that you have the request for qualifications for the
Right.
broker,
That was posted on November 26th, and we did the Seguin Gazette and San Antonio Express News. That has to run for 2 weeks. I believe it's going to run twice, 1 week apart. I don't believe we've received any responses back. Please correct me. We have not received any responses back for that yet, but that's where we're at on that process.
Actually, I think I got a response to my GVSUD email. I just assumed it went to everybody, if not. And it was somebody, hey, we think we have people that fit your RFQ. I'll make sure you get that.
Thank you.
and at a high level, what is it? So I see what it says. So we're wanting to sell the property next door.
Right. And this is to get a broker to
do an assessment.
identify the value of it. This is, the last time the facilities committee met, I believe this is what was discussed on getting a broker, just so we're not making sure that we're doing everything properly by the book, that we're not just, finding a person to buy it and saying, okay, this is what we think the price is. We're going to have a true market value of what the price of that property is and market it to, there might be a market for customers that staff is not aware of, and we'll make sure that we cover all of our bases.
So we're going to expect to, I guess, Shan, real property would be an executive session, correct? Discussion of a value of the property in the building.
Yes, definitely.
But that'll be shared with the board and we'll have an understanding of what a broker thinks it's worth. And then we can decide what to do with it. That's the process.
Yeah, and from the facilities committee, we were under the impression that we're going to do the full assessment of the building's condition to see if renting it out, leasing it, all of our options. That's why we wanted to get someone professional to come in to do that part so that we don't just assume. So.
One quick addition, the idea of using a broker helps you meet your state regulatory requirements of disposing of property at fair market value. And so you've covered that base if you retain a broker.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions? Nope. Okay, thank you, Philip. Texas Solution Groups gave a report. Everybody, does anybody have any questions or concerns on that?
Do they happen to be here today?
On that item, there was information that came across my desk, I think from Philip, in the intervening period since our last regular board meeting, questions about a particular bill that wasn't identified in the Texas Solutions Group report. So I'm going to fill you all in an executive session on that legal issue related to that bill.
What, can you say the bill number? Because I had a question on one, but I didn't send a question in to Philip.
Yes. If I took my notes correctly, HB 4087.
Thank you, Shan. Okay, operations report memo and update, Ms. Manchek. You just stepped out? Okay. So we'll come back to her. David, AT&T phone lines, memo and update. Does anybody have any questions for David concerning his memo? Brown?
So it sounds like you've done some good work on this, reducing our phone lines.
Yes, sir.
I mean, how many extra phone lines did we have running?
If I don't have that exact number in front of me at the moment, but I believe it was like 42.
Okay, so that's where that significant reduction in
Correct, sir.
in cost is. So again, this is good work, finding ways to save money, just cut, unnecessary expenses. So I wanted to, you and I have talked about this in previous months, outside of the board meeting, and you told me you were working on it, and this is good work to have something like this come through where we can reduce our expenses dramatically. So keep doing this. You guys keep finding ways to pinch the pennies and, I mean, pick up $2,000 a month. That's great. So that's really all I had to say.
David, if I may too, if I'm reading this correctly, are you researching to the point where you may recommend transferring devices and the accounts to Verizon?
That's the exact reason this is for, sir. So if there's no other questions,
I have one.
yes, ma'am.
Our current contract with AT&T on these phones, how much longer of a contract do we have with them?
Just a month by month.
Month by month?
And how is our service with AT&T? Is it
Typical.
as to be expected?
It's just
Okay,
typical, just usage, and we pay for what we use.
okay, because Verizon has better service period, especially around here. So, all right, I'll let you give your spiel, I guess.
So in my research, what I have done is reached out with Verizon. I've had several meetings with them, actually, sometimes face-to-face. They've come here and they've given me a really substantial presentation about how we can not only save money, but get better service throughout. And one of those being ease of administration. Currently, with our current setup, we don't have a way to remotely administer each device individually. With Verizon, that's included with a cheaper bill, which is my biggest cost. Plus, we'll get security on each device as well.
And remotely,
Correct. With Verizon, yes.
Oh, we have a contract if we went with Verizon?
The first contract would be for the first, if I don't have the date on there, but it's for basically the first few months to quote, pay off the phones, but we get a rebate automatically. So the phones we will get will be free.
I assume the phones that we have now have been bought outright. They're
Correct.
okay, so they will transition over to a new provided with
We'll
no
get new
problem.
devices, we will get the added security, we'll get the added administration, and we'll get more personalized support locally. Because their office is based close to Austin.
Verizon charging us an import fee? Are they going to charge us like this for the SIM cards, all the little hidden fees that,
That port is included.
okay, it's all included?
Provided,
Okay.
yes.
So what are we looking, what are they projecting for tablet devices?
Tablet devices was a separate one. And
iPads or,
it was iPads because I wanted to keep the same platforms they're currently utilized.
yeah, because your application shouldn't have to change.
Correct. I don't have the number of each device. I do have the email I can get back to you later with.
It says you have no spares at all?
Not when we had current employment, no, because we did end up with a couple of broken devices. So as of right now, I have 2 extra devices.
Okay.
What do you feel comfortable?
Verizon.
Not the
Or
extra devices.
number of extra
Number of
devices?
extra devices. I at least would like to have 2 on standby just in case. For
2 phones and 2 tablets?
I mean, I think that's a reasonable number to have on hand, considering we used to have 40 on hand. So, I mean, I think that's reasonable.
Direction from the board to make that change?
I
or-
would like to have the direction of the board, just that way everybody's.
Okay.
And so these are all iPhone devices?
They will be.
Okay, so probably a silly question. This is really your domain, but I assume the iCloud, I assume we would put all of the important GBSU documents and such, because I saw in our cybersecurity that
Do
there would be
documents.
questions about employees downloading stuff. But if we had our core stuff put on the iCloud and it was all connected to all the phones, then would that be a possibility or something that could be useful even if all the important work orders, whatever is on the iCloud? Or is that more user specific? I'm
I
sorry.
think that'd be more user specific.
Okay,
but
that's
it
fine.
also-
I don't mean to dive that far, and I was just tossing it out
I
there.
think
Okay.
the iCloud information, if I'm understanding your statement correctly, would be more related to how we would utilize the device to work orders. And that's more through the admins or
Okay.
whatever our future process is.
Okay, so we need some action on this. So do I have a motion? Transition from AT&T to Verizon.
I'll make a motion that we transition from AT&T to Verizon as Mr. I'm not gonna try your last name, as David has suggested.
One quick question, guys, I forgot, and how quickly could this be done?
Actually, they're on standby right now. If we get the approval today, I can call them today and we can schedule this within 2 weeks.
Okay,
Over here. In 1 year.
I'll second the motion. And then again, you're comfortable with this move? Is your recommendation?
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Hendricks and a second by Mr. Sherman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. I'm back. Sorry, Pam's here.
Great job. I mean, Mr.
Operations
King,
report
I'm
and-
I'm sorry, I'm
Oh,
gonna
you're good.
say, Mr. King was just crunching numbers. Great job. I mean, we're finding money all over. This has been a good morning already.
That's what, 30,000 in savings?
Just under.
Thank you. All right, operations report and memo update. Hi, good morning.
Is there any questions regarding the report? I did add, as I promised last month, the wastewater daily flow, just in a brief summary, if that meets your.
Yes, ma'am. That's
Okay.
exactly what I was looking for.
Okay, in the future, Philip and I have discussed having more of a written memo also for some of this and maybe adding some additional information. But that's a work in progress. And currently the Edwards Aquifer is back into stage 3. They have gone out of stage 4. They're still fairly low for this time of the year, but
So we're
They're moving
looking
back.
good. It's not-
we have no issues with the Edwards Aquifer. We've shut down that area quite a bit. We've opened it a little bit, but we're in no fear of overpumping at all.
Questions, concerns? Nope. Okay, thank you. Okay, number 4, policy status memo and update. Ms. Garrity.
Good morning, board members. So the notable changes that have been made here is that the investment policy is now complete due to the resolution that was approved at last board's meeting. Also, the annotation for the bylaws of GBSUD, that the sections 1.01 through 3.03 will be provided by February 22, 2024. And is that
So-
for the committee or is that for the board to review?
Guess we'll have to have another committee meeting. Okay. So what we'll do is I'll get with Bob and Mr. King. You guys are still on the bylaws committee with me after February 20, and you can definitively, so we'll find a date after February 22 and have one more quick meeting, and then we can roll it up for the board.
Sounds good. The electronic device policy was provided to you for review. That's already been approved as far as with the notable changes. So I'll go forward with that. And that is the changes that I made from last month to this month's memorandum. Any other questions?
As you might imagine, I have one.
Okay.
On the check register, I noted something I hadn't noticed before any time on my time here, a pay advance. Do we have a pay advance policy anywhere in our existing, maybe in the personnel policy, but we've gone over that and I don't remember a pay advance policy on how we would.
I'm not familiar with that, but I haven't,
Paid, are you you're talking like?
if we did have it, it would be in the personnel
think it is?
policy manual.
It seemed to me it was listed on the check register as a pay advance. I assumed Nick Sherman's a little short. He asked for a little pay advance. That's what I assumed that
thing?
check register item was, but I wanted to ask about it under the policy discussion to where if we don't have a policy on it, maybe we shouldn't be doing it until we do have a policy. And if we do have a policy, I'm just not familiar with where it's located.
I will,
I don't believe we have a policy on pay advancing and we'll do some research on that
Okay,
and get
yeah,
back to you.
I'll leave it with you there.
any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item B, or sorry, 11B, Finance Committee memo. Mr. Hendricks passed it out this morning. I know he had some concerns he wanted to talk about real quick. Mr. Hendricks?
Yeah, sorry, it was my fault. Staff was on me like white on rice to get this turned in, but I just had stuff going on. This was completely my fault that it wasn't in the packet, so I copied everything. We did have a finance meeting. We talked about the healthcare plans that we had implemented on October 1st. Staff brought to attention that they are in effect. We had some minor changes that had to be associated with the plans. There were some cost changes. They were minor. A large issue did surface. There was a gap insurance that we opted for as the company to pay for. The employees weren't paying for it. It was GBSUD. This gap insurance was supposed to cover deductibles, help the employees cover the deductibles, so they didn't have the $3,000 or $6,000 deductible. Well, as with the software program, we were misled by the healthcare provider or the gap insurance company. It did not work anywhere the way they told us that it would work. It actually would have made the employees end up paying a little bit more money the way it was structured. So we got that stricken. They're going to look for another option. If there's another option, we'll bring it to the board so the board can decide if we want to invest that extra money. But as far as the gap money went, we're not spending it now. We canceled it. So that was unfortunate because it could have helped out our employees. But they are looking for a fix. We can explain further, but we'd have to go to executive session if you guys wanted the specifics on that. So are there any other questions about that? That's really all we talked about.
Else? Nope. Okay, moving on. Number 11C, CRWA Board Post-Meeting Update, Mr. Cooper and Ms. Miller.
I was asked for this to be in the packet as well, and I've been swamped with things. Some of y'all know what happened, so I'm here to report. So the meeting started at 6 PM and ended at 9:26 PM. There were 19 board members present. Graham Moore from Alliance talked about Hayes Caldwell Pipeline, and he's here now. He's going to give you the major update that we had at the CRWA meeting, but there has been a significant cost overrun of $46 million. A portion of this is due to construction cost increase from initial estimates in 2016. Land acquisition cost has also increased since initial estate estimates. There are 3 projects that have not been completed due to the 46 million shortage that Alliance needs to move forward with. This comprises the rest of the Phase 1B program, which are the Segment C pipeline, North Inline Elevated Storage Tank, and the administrative facility. They gave a drought report. The GBRA trigger level for drought stage 3 at Canyon Lake is 895 feet. GBRA then has the power to make mandatory cutbacks. Essentially, they can reduce Canyon Regional's take by 15%. The first trigger level is 5% reduction, but it is voluntary. The second trigger level is a 10% reduction and is also voluntary. The third trigger level is 15% and is not voluntary. If there is no significant rain by March 2024, we will go into stage 3. The cutback is based on a calculation of average flow per month from the prior year. They went for an RFQ for general counsel. It has been completed and reviewed by President Tim and has been sent to the executive committee for review. It is ready to be sent out unless there are more comments. The RFQ for construction administration services is completed and will be sent out November 14th. The RFQ for electrical engineering services for Wells Ranch 2 will be sent out on November 14th. The board of directors entered executive session at 7:46 and we went back into open session at 9:22 p.m. The executive committee will direct legal counsel to file a lawsuit against Tri-Hydro Corporation and all other appropriate parties concerning acts and omissions related to the Wells Ranch Phase 2 generator installation project. Just a heads up that there will be a CRWA December meeting. Normally they do not have one due to not being able to get a quorum, but it is needed to approve the Alliance Regional project to beat a deadline. And I officially resign from my CRWA Board of Trustees seat at this time. It has been a pleasure and a huge opportunity for me to learn about how all our water works. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it as long as you did.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
service on that.
Christie, I'm sorry, make you walk off. Is there any plan for a $46 million overage?
And that's what he's going to talk about that and give you the whole presentation that we had. So
Oh,
that's a lot of information. Yeah, it's on the agenda. That's a lot of information for me to say. So,
Is that number 12 on the
Yeah,
agenda?
I didn't have anything in my.
I think so.
Yes,
Right.
number
So,
12.
he'll give
Graham
you-
Moore is here today and he'll be
Yeah,
speaking on
he'll
that.
give you that information.
Thank you.
Mr. Cooper, did you have anything to comment on?
Yeah, the concern about the potential stage 3 restrictions could be a forced reduction of volume by 15%. Stage 3 has never been reached before. Usually the reductions are self-imposed. We're able to manage that ourselves, and the implementation of a required cutback has never been reached before. If there is no significant rainfall between now and March, they're pretty much assuming that stage 3 is going to hit. Also, under general business, just as a note, there was approximately $24 million worth of projects that were approved at CRWA. I could go into each one of them, but there's a total of about 8-9 projects that were funded.
Were any of them related to the filter? I missed that last meeting. Were any of them related to that the filter issue that had been going on?
There is, it's an ongoing process, but remember that the filters require regular changing out of membranes, which is a constant ongoing fee, along with the water treatment plant total refurb. So yes, it was included in there. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to take a recess, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Time is right now 10:08, and we'll be back at 10:18. All right, going back into open session at 10:19. All right, next item on the agenda is 11D, discuss and nominate GVSD representative to the CRWA Board of Trustees and take action as necessary. Do I have a nomination to take Miss Christina Miller's position?
I'd like to fill that position.
Okay, so I have a nomination of Mr. Robertson. Do I have any other nominations?
Nick,
I'll nominate myself. I'm interested in that position.
Okay, I have Nick as a nomination. Okay, anybody else? Mr. King? Mr. Cooper's already on it. All right, so on closed nominations. Okay, at this time, do I have a nomination or a motion on the table for Mr. Nick Sherman?
I'll make the motion, Nick Sherman. For
Second.
CRWA.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, starting with Mr. King. Just one.
One.
Ms. Miller's, Mr. Cooper's still on there with his term.
Motion, I'm sorry, what's the?
So the motion was for Mr. Nick Sherman to replace Christina's position.
Yes.
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 No.
Okay, yes has it. Mr. Sherman is on CRWA. Okay, moving on to 9E, Engineers Report from Utility Engineering Group for construction projects and proposed new developments. Mr. Montgomery.
Good morning. Provided a memo and a map that's in your packet. I don't have any additions to the memo itself, but I do have one additional project to talk about. But I'll answer any questions and then I have a map to pass out.
Anybody have any questions or concerns for Mr. Montgomery?
I had one. So on the second page of your memo, the I-35 project,
Yes.
previously I'd seen some meeting minutes on one of the coordination meetings for I-35, and it's the meeting minutes said Green Valley is shorthanded. We're looking to hire right-of-way agent or something. And I asked in the board meeting, and no one knew what that was. Who is your right-of-way agent? Is that a sub of yours?
Yes, they're a sub of ours. It's HRM. Renee Molyneux.
Why are we not just using the right-of-way agent that Green Valley has got? on
You
hand?
have to, there's an approved contract for HRM and then Texas Land and Right Away also. You have two agents.
So this is why we hired HRM to coordinate this project, or do you know any detail of that?
No, I don't.
Because at the time we were hiring a second, and I'm not meaning to put you on the spot. So
Right.
I apologize. It's trying to be warm and fuzzy today. I really am, because I know everybody's working hard. Everybody's busier than we have been. But at the time I didn't understand why we were hiring a second firm. And there was no explanation of why we needed a second firm, but now
Yeah, I'm not sure on that.
So this firm is the other
Yes,
approved Green Valley firm. Okay.
correct. Any other questions? And then I'll pass out. If not, I'll pass out the map. This project just came on my list yesterday. As the map is going around, this is up close to the well field, the Edwards and Trinity wells, close to Garden Ridge in the city of Schertz. This is right off of 2252 at the creek crossing in the railroad. The line is leaking, and I was asked to start preparing plans to get this bid. This is an important line to feed well water back across 35 coming into the Cibolo area. So we're working on those plans. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that we're going to move this very quickly. Actually, the advertisement for bid, it runs tomorrow. And the reason for that is we want to make your December 14th board meeting. So we're moving it very quickly. It's an important line. You do have an existing line. Everybody's in service at this point, but you're a line down. This line is turned off at this point due to the leak. So we need to mobilize a contractor. Staff has looked at it and they were going to try to do it in-house. They're having trouble with dewatering. It just stays with the recent rains that we've had. This is the low spot. It's a creek crossing. So the plan is to put out bid documents to either pipe burst the line and replace it in place or do a directional drill across the creek. That way we don't have to deal with the groundwater and surface water that's there. But just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that we're moving this one very quick. And it wasn't on the memo because the memo was written several days prior to this.
What is the size of the existing line?
It's a 12-inch.
So we're upgrading it to 16 while we're doing it?
Yes, that's correct. And going to
Tank right up at the top of the hill there?
That's correct, at the intersection, right? Yes, that's plant 8. Just wanted to bring it to the attention of the board. We don't need any approval at this point. We'll put out the bids and bring those back as a general project. It's just normally we leave a project out to bid for 30 days, try to get best pricing and get as many people to bid as possible. But this one's really important. We want to move it forward.
This is sounding like an emergency.
It is, yes. But we're still going to keep it out. That's why I put the advertisement in yesterday to run Wednesday. That gives us the minimum 2-week advertising time to meet state statutes and all of that. So we're meeting all the rules. Typically, we just go longer to give bidders a little more time to look at it and try to get better pricing. We've already contacted several contractors and told them it was coming so that we can jump on it and get this thing out to bid and get the line back. Again, it is an emergency, but everybody has water. We're able to backfeed, and that's the benefit of having a looped system. But the risk is if the other line goes down, we're in trouble. So it is an emergency. So we'll move it forward and bring it back to your December 14th board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Real quick, do we know how long this has been leaking?
I don't know. This just came to my radar at 2:30 yesterday evening, or yesterday afternoon. So I'm not sure if Philip.
Probably been a while.
Unfortunately, I'm in a similar boat to Gary that I was just made aware of this yesterday afternoon. But from what I was told, I believe it's been offline for over a month at this point. And like I said, the initial plan was for staff to replace it. As Gary mentioned, there's a creek crossing and
we can only do
going to
so
be
much.
very difficult for staff. We don't have the proper training or equipment to do a repair like this.
The funds for this repair is coming out of what?
Pam, what line item would this be under?
For the repairs?
Right. Okay.
That's
For the record, since she doesn't have a microphone, it will be under our large construction repairs.
okay. Just want to make sure.
And Gary, one more question for you. You're advertised for only the 16 or you've advertised for the 12 and a 16 car?
Staff is at the office working on those documents right now. If we want to put an alternate in, we can. One of the reasons we went to a 16 is typically HDPE pipe has less capacity because of the wall thickness. So we went up one nominal size. But we could do an alternate for 12-inch. I think.
But if it was HDPE, then we would actually reduce capacity.
Right.
So he's got a great point. The wall thickness of
The pipe.
this type of pipe in this installation is thicker. And so you actually lose flow area in your pipe. So 16 is probably the correct answer no matter what.
To still equate to the 12-inch volume, right? Okay.
Right.
Cool. Any other questions for Mr. Montgomery? No?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 11F, engineers report from Tri-Hydro for construction projects and proposed new developments. Mr. Veerland.
So I believe everyone received the engineering memo from us, and if you have any questions, let me know. I guess there is one project I can make a comment on, and it's the Homestead ground tank. It has been delayed, so I just wanted to make everyone aware that we are having issues with that project, but it's more just delays and parts availability. So
My one question on the reuse, we're acquiring easements. So all those costs tied to easements are, like we said, those costs are rolled up in the number that we discussed last month when we approved the participation in the project.
yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, they're rolled up in there, and we haven't acquired any easements as of yet. We're still trying to coordinate with the landowners at this time.
And then are you guys coordinating those easements or do you have a land agent as well?
For right now, it's us. We're coordinating with that particular landowner.
This landowner on what would that be, the south side of 1044?
Yes, it's the same side that we have the water line on. Yep.
Questions, comments, concerns? Nope.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, going to item number 12, here report for Mr. Graham Moore on Alliance Regional Water Authority and take action as necessary. Mr. DeFrancesco and Mr. Graham.
Yes.
So,
Good morning, everybody. For the record, my name is Graham Moore, Executive Director of Alliance Regional Water Authority. I appreciate you placing this item on the agenda. I have a presentation, kind of step through. While that's being pulled up, I do have a request to talk about some additional financing. Before I do that, I want to give you an update on as to where we're at on our construction of our various projects. So I'll try and go through that fairly quickly to give you that update. I don't know, can I control that from up here? Do I just need to tell you when to advance? Great, I think we can go the next slide. The first slide that's going to show here is, we can go to the next slide. There we go. Is our overall system map. This is just a reminder of everything that we've got to build in order to produce, treat, and transmit the treated water to all of our customers. On the far right is our water treatment plant and well field. That's in far eastern Caldwell County. In the center of the map is Lockhart. And then as you move to the left, we have the city of Buda at the top of the page and New Braunfels down at the bottom of the page. And so we've got to get pipelines to all of our customers, which include the cities of San Marcos, Kyle, and Buda, and the Canyon Regional Water Authority. And the three customers of Canyon Regional Water Authority are Green Valley Special Utility District, Crystal Clear Special Utility District, and County Line Special Utility District. And so we divided up the pipelines into 5 different segments, A through E, in order to be able to develop all that water and get it to everybody that's needed. We also have a booster pump station there in the Maxwell area, and that's kind of where we divide up the water and push it to the north or to the south in this direction. And then some of that water continues to the west to San Marcos. And then finally, on the north segment and on the south segments, we have elevated storage tanks to give us some additional storage during emergency conditions. It also makes the operations of the Maxwell Booster Pump Station easier, and just makes our pressure in those pipelines more sustainable and a little bit steadier. So with that, just wanted to remind you of kind of the overall system. If we can go to the next slide, give you an update on the water treatment plant itself. The 2 slides, those pictures were taken on the left here in late October. You can see that they're making pretty good progress on the overall site. We have 2 raw water storage tanks, and then we do chemical addition. Inside the major building there are filters. And if you see the picture on the right, that's an older picture before the skin and roof was put on the buildings that shows the gravity sand filters that are inside that building and some of the chemical addition areas there to the right. So that's just kind of give you an idea of what's inside the building. And then the water moves on down to the clear well on the bottom end of the site. That's the larger of the tanks on the site. And then we've got our pumps at the bottom end of that. Some of those pipes are dedicated to send the water out for transmission along the 48-inch pipeline as it leaves the site. Some of those pumps are dedicated for backwash of the filters, so we can continually clean those filters and reuse them. And then we've got a couple of plant water pipes, so we can utilize the water inside the plant for firefighting purposes and for lab purposes, and that sort of thing. So overall, the Archer Western is the contractor. They're doing a fine job. We have had some delays and primarily related to electrical gear. Our last major component is MSB2, main switchboard 2, which has a couple of 2,500 amp circuit breakers in it that's been delayed by about a total of 9 months. We've been tracking it, and it's set to ship later this week on Thursday, November 30th, out of Monterrey, Mexico. We're expected to receive that mid-December and get that installed. And so right now we are projected to have the water treatment plant online and operational in April of 2024. So the electrical delays have been very problematic on this. From talking with other folks that have large plant type projects, be it water or wastewater underway, every gear manufacturer that does this, which are about 5 major ones, have all experienced significant delays in production of large type gear like this. So unfortunately, we're not alone, but it has been a real problem for us in getting this facility online.
What about the cost of this facility? Do you know offhand what the bid amount was?
Yeah, I believe, and so we have this plus our initial wells were included with this, and I believe all that, sir, was about 52 million.
That was the bid?
Yes.
Then were there any cost overruns?
We've had some change orders related to this on the order of about $900,000.
In previous presentations you've made, we've gone through the escalating estimates. I can't remember what the original estimate was on the plant itself, but
And I don't have those numbers before me today, but I can certainly provide that information to you if you'd like.
$1 million on 52 million is not bad.
We're managing it. We get lots of requests and we, you know, like y'all have been, we try to be mindful about what's really needed in order to operate versus what's a little bit more of a luxury and trying to make those assessments.
Okay.
There's no other questions on that. We'll go to the next project, which is our booster pump station in Maxwell. As I mentioned, this is the site where we kind of split the flow to the north to the south and then continue on to the west to San Marcos. So at this location, we've got a 5 million gallon ground storage tank that we fill from the water treatment plant. And then we have, you see a large pump station slab there. We've got pumps dedicated that push the water to the south. We have pumps dedicated to push the water to the north. And then we actually gravity flow from this location over to the San Marcos delivery point. You can also see on that slab, or barely see maybe, that we have future spots. We know we're going to need some expansions in the future. And so we've already got that planned into the slab to where we just need to drop the pumps and the piping in place and the electrical gear to power that up. But the rest of the yard piping, everything is planned for that. So that should be relatively easy expansions. The little building there on the right is where the electrical equipment is located to power the site. So this site's making good progress. They are scheduled to have this ready. The contractor says in mid-December. I'm thinking more like the first part of January is when this will be ready and substantially complete. Of course, until we get the water treatment plant pushing water, it's nice to have this substantially complete, but there's no water source for this water to push through until that time's done.
Same questions on this. Do you remember the contract amount and with change orders, current contract?
The contract amount on this, I believe, was $19 million. And change orders to date, I believe we are at about $350,000 on this one. So again, we're looking to have this part substantially complete here. January is what I would tell you of 2024. If we go to the next slide. Great. So this is our south inline elevated tank. This is at the corner of SH 123 and 1339. For those of you that may know where that area is, they've completed the pedestal and they actually have all the steel now in place for this. They are starting their coatings, I believe, in the next week or so, and they plan on painting all that on the ground, and then they'll hoist that up in mid to late January and then complete all the interior improvements, piping and ladders and all the different appurtenances that are required for that. This is planned to be substantially complete in May of 2024. The contractors make good progress with this, hit their schedules on the dot. So we're very pleased with how this project is coming along.
Same questions.
Same question. I believe this one, it's a 1 million gallon tank and it's $4.75 million is what I recall. And we've had one change order for $7,100, I believe, on this one. Moving on then to the pipelines. So again, this is the same system map I showed before. In red, I've tried to indicate the water lines that are installed and they're in the ground. So you can see for the east and west lines, which we call A and B, that's all that pipeline is basically in the ground. They are going through the hydrostatic testing of it to make sure there are no leaks and make sure they can hold the pressure that it's designed to hold. So that's underway now. And then segments D and E are coming down more this direction to the south and to the west. Segment D, we bid out a lot earlier and they're in making good progress there. They anticipate having all of that pipe complete in February of this next year. And then segment E is underway and they are projected to be complete there, including termination at the Lake Dunlap Water Treatment Plant in May of 2024. We've got a couple of significant crossings on this effort for segment E. We've got a tunnel under the Lake Dunlap or the Guadalupe River there. So that's planned to be horizontal directional drilling. They're going to start that in January. And then back on segment D, they're in the process of crossing the San Marcos River. They've drilled the shafts on either side. And this week they're starting to set the microtunnel machine to basically connect those two shafts across and underneath the San Marcos River. So that's a significant crossing there. If we go to the next slide, I've got a few.
Quick question.
Yeah, yes, sir.
How deep are we having to go under, or you are, to go underneath the Guadalupe? And what size? I'm sure you were presented it before, but I just don't remember it.
Good question. So under the Guadalupe River, that's a 36-inch steel pipeline that's being pushed under that line, under that crossing. And I believe for the HDD, because we kind of, the geometry of it, you got to go pretty deep to come back up. I believe below the water surface, we are on the order of about 45 feet below at the greatest point there. For the San Marcos River crossing, we are 65 feet deep from the surface on either side of the banks down to the bottom of those shafts.
Remember, those banks are pretty high there anyway.
They are. The river sits pretty far below that. I don't happen to know the different distance from the top of that water surface to that.
And then on D and E, my same questions. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to find, $46 million overage, when we get to the end of it. Do you know offhand the contract and the change order amounts on D and E?
Well, so on E, the contract amount for E, I believe, was 25 million, and to date, we've had one change order for 46,000. On D, trying to recollect, I believe that is a $43 million project. And we've had one change in the amount of, well, actually, we've had about two changes in the amount of, I would say $500,000 total. The amount, the 46 million we're going to request is not really due to change orders. And I'll explain how we got to that. Good question, fair question.
I'm just trying to track as we go so we don't have to go back and.
And then we also have the other two pipeline projects, A and B, through there. Again, I don't have my notes in front of me, but roughly A was about a $50 million project. And I believe in terms of change orders on it, we've been about $150,000 in total. And then in segment B, that was about a $33 million project. And we have had significant change order there. So we're at about 2.7 million in changes on that one. We took some of the scope that was going to be in segment B and segment D and put it into segment B because it made more sense for that contractor to do it. So that was a significant change into the segment B project. All right, any other questions there before we go on? I was going to show a few pictures of the tunnel work that we've done. So on the upper right, we had to cross Plum Creek. Again, that's a micro tunnel similar to the San Marcos River crossing. That's looking right down on the micro tunnel machine as it's starting its entrance into the pit. On the bottom, on the right side is one of the shafts there at the San Marcos River crossing the launch shaft. If you could see the white circular pieces there to the bottom and to the right of the shaft are the actual micro tunnel that is going to be set this week down into there that'll connect across and underneath the river. And then on the left side is in some ways the most interesting picture. It's our crossing under SH 130, that was hand tunneled. That's a 60-inch diameter casing pipe. And so the contractor elected to do that as the lowest priced option. So they had 3 folks in there that were using hand tools to mine that out, have a cart to take that material back out and dump it. So yeah, we all kind of marvel at that one. It's the lowest technology option available, and yet in some ways it's the most astonishing that we still do that. But again, they elected that was the least costly option that they had to do that, and they were able to complete it on time and where we needed it to be. So it was successful. So moving on to really the bulk of why I'm here, and that's to discuss the financing and the request. As noted, and as I presented at Canyon Regional Water Authority earlier this month, we have identified a shortage of $46 million for the entire program. It really includes 3 different projects that we need to complete. Our segment C pipeline, which is shown here in the chartreuse or pink color, it goes from the Maxwell station at the bottom up through Kyle. Again, it has deliveries to the city, a second delivery to the city of San Marcos, delivery to County Line Special Utility District. It's how Kyle gets its water, and then ultimately it connects to some existing infrastructure we have that gets water to Buda.
I'm sorry, will you say that again, please?
Sure. The customers on this line, on the left side is the city of San Marcos. That green triangle is city of San Marcos. On the far right side is County Line Special Utility District. Then as we move up towards the top, that green triangle is city of Kyle. And then the blue water line is existing infrastructure that we have. And that's how the city of Buda will receive its share of the Carrizo water that it's paying for.
So your 5 million ground storage tank is in the bottom right of this image?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, sir.
And then the blue line headed south is
segment D.
Is segment D that comes to Canyon Regional?
Yes, sir. That's correct. And so we also have the yellow shape there is trying to indicate where the north inline elevated storage tank is. I showed you photos and where we're working on the south inline tank. For the north, we need a similar type of a project. And then the third project, pardon me, that this would help fund is an administrative facility. We currently do not have any facilities for our folks or for board meetings and that sort of thing. So we're looking at a construction of an administrative facility at the Maxwell Booster Pump Station to help serve those functions. Pardon me. So the reason for the shortage, jumping down to the last piece, then I'll back up on the cost, is we've seen construction cost increases and land acquisition cost increases on the entirety of the program. This segment C was the last of our pipeline segments to go to design. This pipeline segment goes significantly through the city of Kyle, which is developing at a very fast rate. And so it's taken us a significant amount of time to work with the developments that are underway through that area to find an alignment where we could get our easements in place. So by the time we had our basic alignment set, a lot of coordination with the city of Kyle and some of the road bond projects that they had underway, and then taking into account more of the recent bids we had on our other projects, it was identified that the construction estimates for that project were coming in a lot higher than what we had initially. So that's a significant portion of the 46 million that's being requested. And then the other piece is the land acquisition cost for the entirety of the program. When we estimated these costs back in 2017, land values were significantly different than what we've experienced over the last 3 years as we've been acquiring these easements. And so while not as significant in total as the construction cost increases, in terms of a percent increase, the land acquisition has been very significant in what we've actually had to pay to secure the easements from all of the landowners. We've had about 290 different parcels we've had to acquire easements from along this 85 miles of pipeline right away. So it's been a significant effort.
How wide an easement are you acquiring?
Question. So for segments A, B, D, and most of E, we're acquiring 90-foot easements that allow for a total of 3 pipelines. We're putting 1 pipeline in now. We have a partnership with the Guadalupe Blanco River Authority that is paying for half of the cost of those easements. not only the professional services, but actually the dirt that we pay for in those easements. That 3 pipelines allows us, Alliance Water, to control and put in a second pipeline in the future. It also allows GBRA to put in a 3rd pipeline in the future. The benefit there is we don't think this area is going to be any easier in the future to get future pipelines and easements through this way. The area continues to grow. We think everybody's going to need more water into the future. And so we're trying to look ahead and secure the easements now so we have the rights to put the pipelines through this area. So that's been a significant impact. One of the benefits of the wider easements, the 90-foot easements, is we really don't need any temporary construction easements. And putting in these pipelines, they're able to contain all of their work in that 90-foot area. Whereas if we were to do something less than that with the diameter pipelines we're looking at, we would need to secure basically temporary construction easements parallel and adjacent to the entirety of all of these easements. So even in the future pipelines, we can stage materials within that 90 feet and we don't need to come back in and get temporary construction easements. So it's been a tremendous challenge to secure all of those easements, I think more than we really anticipated, but it is definitely one of those factors that we're putting in that we're doing now to save us effort in the future when more supplies are needed in the region, and we will already have the easements and the rights to put in those future pipelines.
What's the width on segment C?
Segment C is less than that. GBRA does not participate in that, so we are securing 60 feet in those areas.
So each pipeline needs 30 feet of easement?
Basically, yes, sir. And again, our pipeline diameters range at the large end, it's 48-inch. Most of our system is 42-inch. We've got a fair amount of 36-inch and on down to 30-inch. The one leg that you see here that goes to the east over at the county line, that's our smallest leg. It's a 12-inch water line. Everything else is a pretty significant size pipeline throughout this area. So the $46 million that we're requesting, as a reminder, this is a total system cost. So Green Valley is helping to pay for segment C. Likewise, Buda, Kyle, San Marcos County Line are helping to pay for the water treatment plant and pipelines that come down this direction. Everybody is in on a percentage basis of the entirety of the system. So there's not separate ownership on separate segments. It is a system-wide effort. Green Valley's contract is with Canyon Regional Water Authority. Canyon Regional Water Authority accounts for 30.89% of the water received and the cost in our project, which in this case is about $14.2 million. And then Green Valley Special Utility District is about a third of that, 33 and some odd percent of that. And so that's how we arrive at the $4.7 million as GVC SUD's approximate share of that. Go to the next slide. What we've identified is previously we've always utilized the Texas Water Development Board SWIFT funding, State Water Implementation Fund of Texas, which allows us to borrow at the state's credit, and then they offer some subsidies below that. And so that's the lowest interest rate we can get to. And ultimately, that's what we intend to use again. The challenge with that is that window only opens one time per year. And so the earliest we could get to those funds in 2024 is November. With inflation that continues to go on and the needs for the water on that segment C pipeline, our board has decided that we need to move the project forward more quickly in order to do that. So with essentially what we've identified is a bond anticipation note or a BAN, which will allow us to serve as a bridge financing between now to get to the SWIFT financing closing in November of 2024. A band is something that we have not utilized in the past. Again, we've only utilized revenue bonds through the SWIFT program. And so, but it is a common practice that is allowed for governmental entities in the state of Texas. The intent, again, is to issue the ban in December and then effectively refinance that through the Water Development Board and the SWIFT program when that application starts in February, and we would close on that in November of 2024. At this point in time, we are planning on needing an interest-only payment in November 2024 to pay for the ban, but we are working with the Water Development Board to see if we can refinance the interest payment as well into the longer SWIFT payments so that the first payment wouldn't be due really until August of 2025.
What is the rate?
So we don't have a final rate yet. We will have that next week as we continue to work through this. We're estimating a 5% rate for a 1-year note. And for Green Valley's share of that, we're estimating that about $235,000 in interest. We have been working with Wells Fargo Bank to secure this bond anticipation note. And if we go to the next slide, talk about kind of the next steps in this process. I mentioned that we have not utilized a ban in the past. In fact, our water supply contract that we have with our 4 sponsors, and in turn that Canyon Regional Water Authority has with the SUDs, including Green Valley, doesn't specifically address the use of a ban. So we are requesting an amendment to the contract to allow the use of the bond anticipation notes. So that's action we would need to take in December. That would make sure that we could refund it through the SWIFT and not have any problems. And then there'd be a secondary action. This initially said December or January, but we've been able to make enough progress that I'm confident we could get this done in December, is we would seek your approval actually of the ban itself. At that point in time, we would have the specific interest rate and we'd have that known for you to take a vote on and potentially approve that resolution. And again, both of those actions could occur at the same meeting in December.
So I follow correctly because there's a lot of moving parts. ARWA needs CRWA to approve in December this action.
That's
with-
correct.
With the ban at, we hope, 5%, and you'll have a firm rate at that point.
By next Tuesday, we will.
And
Yes, sir.
then all of the 3 member entities that are receiving water through your pipeline that are of CRWA need to all take action before the December CRWA meeting?
Not before the December CRWA meeting, no. You could take action in December, basically at any point in time, and it would be effective. So we just need to have, we do have to have action by all the SUDs, actually all of our sponsors. So CRWA, the 3 cities, and our board all have to take action, but there's not a set order to who needs to take action first.
But all CRWA and the 3 SUDs need all 4 take action before ARWA can take action.
Not necessarily, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In this case, it doesn't need to be in that order. It can be done differently. That's how we've always done it with the SWIFT and my understanding is, and I need to get our bond counsel involved if there's further questions as to why one's allowable and one's not. But we have worked through the schedule and they said in this case is not necessary to have them in that order.
Mr. Moore, I have a kind of a tough question for staff and for you. Can you give me a financial overview of the total project? In other words, what's the total project? What's our commitment? Second question. And lastly, how much money have we currently contributed to this project? I'm sorry, I know they're tough.
No, well, and I'll answer,
Question.
what I can. So our, for the construction, for our overall program, of the infrastructure, we estimated 288 million, and that's what we have current, contributions, or revenue bonds tied up for. And so then we would be adding the $46 million on top of that. So it's about a 15% increase, above that, a little bit more than that.
And we're working off of 2016 original estimates, is that correct?
That early 2017 estimates.
2017.
Yes, sir. That's exactly correct. And so Canyon Region, I have to think through this in steps. So Canyon Regional share is 30.89% of that. I don't have my calculator, but that's probably on the order of, 130 million or so. And then say 145 million. And then we've got, Green Valley SUD is another third of that. There are, though, other costs annually that Green Valley has paid into the overall effort, because we still have our water leases and water rights that we've secured. We've got our staff that is paid for, that is paid separately from the debt finance portion of this. And
So that's about 48 million for us.
I'd say that's on, yeah, order of magnitude. Yes, sir.
How much have we already contributed to the project? All 48 million?
Well, except for what we're asking for this time, yes, those revenue bonds have been secured. Of course, you're working on the debt service payments of that on an annual basis. So you haven't paid all 48 million into that yet. We've secured it. We just are collecting debt service payments from Green Valley annually to cover your share of that.
And then the additional funds you're looking for was how much? 4.7?
46 million, which Green Valley shares 4.7 million.
4.7. So for a total of about 150 million in total for our portion of this project. 152, 153. Sorry, I don't mean to hold you down.
No, well, I'm trying to make sure I'm right. So y'all are about, again, it's a percent of a percent. So y'all are about 10% of the overall project. So I would say, in stepping back and thinking through the numbers, in total, we're at about 340 million or so. So Green Valley share is about 35 million in total for the capital share.
And directors, I'm looking at our water supply table that I absolutely love. Gary keeps putting this in here because it's useful. It looks like we're going to receive about 1,500 acre feet of water, based on me reading the graph here. It looks like we're supposed to receive it in 23, but we'll be mid 24 maybe.
Yes, sir.
You know, we're still in good shape there. But for our reference, this is looking like about 1,500 acre feet of water that we're counting on in our accommodations here. Sherry, I'll explain this to you. I love this. It's useful to me, but that's a good point of reference for my mind.
And two, is an additional thought, and this is a sidebar to that conversation. We were just informed that Canyon Regional could be forced to make cutbacks coming out of the flow of Canyon Lake. This could be a timely contribution to mitigate that.
We'll say
Water is delivered on time.
all of our customers currently rely in some way on the water out of Canyon Lake. And particularly as we go into the summertime of 2024, they're anxious to have this supply online, particularly in case Canyon Lake goes into stage 3 and the 15% mandatory cutbacks come into effect.
Like I said, this could mitigate some of that. I don't know how much.
Yeah, it depends on everybody's percentage of that water.
I
Yes,
think
sir.
you was discussed at CRWHP. Right? What are the consequences if this funding doesn't go? Well, it sets you back, what, months or more?
Well, assuming we were able to get and approve everything later this year, it would set us back at least 10 months.
I'm sorry, how?
10 months
Okay,
would be my estimate,
all right.
assuming in the future things go forward.
How much of this additional money is the administration facility going to cost?
Right now, we have estimated that at $4 million.
Okay, when this project initially went through, it was mentioned that the facility was actually included in the base cost. How come now all of a sudden the facility is not included in that base cost?
Well, we have not moved forward with that facility because it hasn't been part of the critical infrastructure to deliver water. So we put the focus on what infrastructure do we need in the ground to get the water to the customers first. And so the administration building has fallen to the bottom of the priority list in that terms.
My point is, it was said that the administration facility was included in the initial amount. And now apparently it's completely out of the initial amount and you're asking for money specifically for that building as referenced on your slides.
Well, yes, all of the projects were in the initial funding request, and due to overages and the prioritizing the schedule of the projects that need to move forward, the administrative facility had the lowest priority, and therefore we didn't start on that until we knew we could have the funds available.
With its lowest priority, what is its function then?
The function is for staff to have a location to meet and to meet with operators of the entirety of the system, as well as a location for our board to meet regularly.
Okay,
We
so
currently-
using a facility such as this one that we just built is out of the question, or using CRWA is out of the question as GVSUD did for years?
No, sir, I did not say that was out of the question. We're open to different options. Our board has requested that we try and move forward with a right-sized administrative facility that could take care of our operational needs. We have been open. We've for the entirety of the organization dating back to 2007, we have roamed around to wherever we could find board meeting space in order to hold our meetings. and
Oh, you're
conduct our
preaching the
business.
choir on that one, so I have no mercy on that.
No, and we're
so-
not asking for mercy. We understand we're not trying to build anything, just like y'all built a very nice facility here. I don't think anybody would call this a Taj Mahal. We're not trying to do that either. We're trying to build a functional facility that we can utilize for our staff to get together and for us to hold board meetings. We actually need less of a footprint than y'all would. We don't have the retail side of it, which takes up so much of the space. We're just trying to find the right fit there.
So if the building was completely struck, like if, I'm just being rhetorical here, if GVSUD said, okay, we will give funds, but absolutely not a dime of our money is going to go to that building, would it stop the project? Would it hinder the project? Would it actually harm ratepayers in any way, shape, or form? Or is it a complete luxury just to have a nice meeting place?
Well, I don't think it's fair to say it's a complete luxury to
Okay, I'll
have a
strike that,
facility
but-
to work in. No. Is it critical to have that facility in order to deliver water to the customers? No. Is it critical to have a functional staff and operations, proper operations of the system? I would argue that yes, having a facility where everybody can rally together and meet. If we have critical situations that arise, a place for us to rally our staff and discuss through how to tackle those issues are critical to the overall operation.
And I'd remind Director Hendricks that we are just a partner. We don't own this project, so we're just responsible for a portion of this. The other entities are responsible for the other portions. So
I totally understand, and I do appreciate that, but when we spend as much money as we did, and now there's still a $46 million price tag, and there's a $4 million building that by all accounts isn't needed, throwing that into the $46 million is kind of making our ratepayers pay for you guys to have a meeting facility, which I agree. We were in the exact same situation for years. We had to go to CRWA. It was out of our range. It was added, 15, 20 minutes to our trips, to our employees, to everyone having to go to CRWA. And we did that for years. And the amount of flack that we caught for building this building on the ratepayers' dimes, so that we could have a nice facility here, it's justified either way. We have a nice facility now, but now we would potentially be asking our ratepayers to pay, however you want to slice it. We're going to have people that are going to pull this up just like I'm pulling it up now. We're going to have ratepayers saying, how come 4 million of GVSUD funds is going to pay for a meeting place for a completely different entity? And that needs to be on there, because those are going to be my serious reservations with voting as to how we're going to spend some extra money. So.
And let me jump in. I'm going to be on the same topic. I'm going to try to give some history. I tend to agree with Mr. Hendricks on the building. When you came to Green Valley in our old building next door for the design funds of this, I'm not sure if you remember me, but I'm pretty firm on you, pretty pointed questions. One of the options was a possible admin building, is how it was stated, or at least how I remember. So now we've definitively got one, and I get it. We need space. Y'all have been, what'd you say, it's 2017?
2007.
Right.
is when the
Oh, it's 2007.
started.
You've been roaming and making it work. I think you should seriously consider paring this back, sequencing potentially the admin building, identifying what's the most important item for the project is to deliver water to 7 points, something of that to that effect.
Right.
That's the most critical item. You've been doing well on getting to this point so far. How many office staff would you say would be housed in that building?
We currently have 3 permanent staff. We would anticipate at this point rising to about 5 or 6 would be probably at this stage, the most permanent staff we would have. We are outsourcing our operations. We've entered into a contract with GBRA to do the actual operational of the entirety of the system. So there is an
Operation and O&M is
That's
going to be by
correct.
GBRA.
That's right. And that's on a 5-year contract that can be reconsidered, anytime during that period at the end of the 5 years to see. The other option is for Alliance Water to hire our own staff and to operate the system in its entirety. So it would not need to be a massive office area for that.
Okay, and that's good information. Your comment about GBR paying 1/3 of the easement width, the reason I asked, I knew how wide the easement was. I was going to ask, well, did we overbuy? But if GBRA paid for a portion of it, that's the first I'd ever heard that. So I'm back to that's okay. But under the contract with GBRA, are we required to provide office space for the operators?
We are not, they effectively have their own office space, but what it'd be nice is to have a space similar to this, a flexible space. If we have a problem with our system where we could all huddle around and figure out how do we resolve whatever the problem, whatever the challenge, pipeline break, whatever that might be. So kind of an emergency operation center that would be the same as the board area so that we could have that.
And then one of the
Location.
strategies Green Valley utilized while this building was under construction, but we had to staff up, was we actually rented space. And Philip, do you recall offhand how many bodies officed in, it was basically a nice double wide construction trailer.
Right.
I
And it was
think by
basically permanently
by the
installed.
time we turned in that building, there were 6 staff office there.
So my suggestion would be to strongly consider maybe paring back a $4 million building and looking at the purchase of around a $400,000 nice new double wide office trailer that could serve the function for a decade. Do the critical items. That would make my vote much easier because we don't have $4.7 million lying around. We have tremendous debt service we already have. I'm not going to be interested in borrowing any more money, to go towards overages. Kind of late in the game for, CRWA heard about it a few weeks ago, but it's kind of late in the game for us to be hearing about a $46 million shortfall on the entirety of the system. So to my ears and to the people that fuss at me from our ratepayers, some of them are sitting in the audience right now, it helps me justify voting for more money if I can say, well, it was going to be 4.7, but with some suggestions and with some tightening up on your end, we got it down to 3.7 of Green Valley's cost, or whatever the reduction potentially would be. So I would strongly consider, and I think every other person, and you're a big boy, you've come and gotten some whippings at many a board meeting, I'm sure, just like this. So I'm sure everyone else would also agree with that statement, that if we can pinch something that is the lowest priority on the project system, limp along for another 8-10 years, and then figure out how to do the permanent facility, especially if we only have 3 permanent staff, maybe double that to 6. Ratio wise, I want to take care of staff. I want to take care of our staff. I want to take care of your staff, but over $1 million per existing staff member that's a big one for,
Well, let's not forget too, that we're not the only entity that has a discussion with this office space. There's 2 other entities too, so they would have a say in this too.
Well, speaking to that, Mr. Cooper, can you give us some thought as to how the other entities are tracking right now? Okay. I didn't know if CRWA talked about that, so.
Microphone.
You're-
No, David.
Sorry, I don't have any insights. Mr. Moore can answer that better than I can.
if you
I've
could.
made presentations to everybody but the city of Buda, which is tonight. So I can tell you, yes, everybody's had concerns. Nobody's excited to see me come back before you and ask for money. Least of all, me. County Line and Crystal Clear have heard this same presentation and their share of it. I think it's safe to say that County Line, as the one of the entities whose pipeline is not underway and whose growth is happening tremendously quickly right now, they're in favor of whatever it takes to get them a pipeline with water in it so they can continue to serve. And they are ready to take action. Crystal Clear, again, wasn't very excited to see me coming asking for more money, but they've agreed they're going to schedule a special meeting in December. They typically don't meet in December to take action on these 2 items and to move them forward. And I certainly understand and appreciate the concerns about the admin facility. That is why we haven't moved forward with it yet, because we were prioritizing, again, the infrastructure that's needed to actually produce, treat, and transmit the water to the customers, because that is ultimately the critical asset that is being delivered to each of you, right? However, part of the consideration that our board has had, because there's been discussions about an admin facility dating back to really 2017, 2018 period, is if we're going to need an admin facility, by delaying, are we just going to pay more in the future for that? And while right sizing it, I think is an appropriate, and these estimates are early estimates. We don't have a design yet. We don't have something we can go out and even do per square foot calculations on. It's just meant as an estimate at this point. That, you know, we've got to understand that if we wait 8, 9, 10 years, not only do we have whatever we're paying on a temporary or purchased long-term, we still have construction costs that we've seen have been escalating through the years. And so there's some trade-off there, I think, to be considered about what does this look like. And so far, our board, who again is a 13-member board of directors appointed by each of the sponsors, has said, you know, let's continue forward with an administrative facility. Now, I think they would be open to right-sizing it. Again, I completely wholeheartedly agree with that, and we have not gone through that exercise yet.
Who is the board member that's appointed by CRWA?
So there are, let's see, there are 4 board members from CRWA, Pat Allen, Humberto Ramos, Chris Betts from County Line, and Regina Frankie from Crystal Clear are the 4 board members from CRWA.
Pat Allen, Roberto Ramos, Regina Frankie, and who was the third one?
Chris Betts. He was the former chair of County Line Special Utility District. He's been the chair of our board of directors now for, oh goodness, probably 6 or 7 years at this point.
And doing some napkin math on the $4 million cost of the building, GVSUD's financial responsibility to that $4 million would only be approximately $430,000.
That's correct. It's
So
about
reducing
10%.
the cost by half would only reduce our commitment to $215,000. So our financial stake in the $4 million building is 4% or what,
About 10%.
10% of the total cost.
And again,
So 10% of that number, the 4.7, is only going to the building. Everything else is going to infrastructure that we need to be investing in, correct? Well, I'm just trying to
No,
make sure.
no,
just
the
based
4
on-
million, the 4.7 is our portion of the entire cost overrun. We're talking, you guys were just talking about the $4 million for the building, and all I'm doing is trying to put that into perspective, what our responsibility of that $4 million portion is.
So what I'm getting at is the remaining out of that 400,000, that would be earmarked
Would be
for the building.
4.3
The
million
rest of it would be for everything else.
for the extensions and all together.
Okay.
And
and the
those
building
are,
represents about 8.5% of the total request that we've come to you with.
and those other 4.3 million are overages on the north zone, which we don't utilize, but it's a system-wide agreement. I get all that. All over the years that you've come and reported on the different projects, I've always asked you, hey, you know, we're coming down to Canyon Lake first, right? And the way you sequenced them, for whatever reason, happened to deliver water to us first, which is good for us. So while I don't like 4.3 million going well out of our system, deal's a deal. We have to eventually do it. I agree with that, but I do want to pinch pennies anywhere we can.
Understood.
I do want to ask you a question regarding the BAM or BAN.
Ban, yes, sir.
So I'm not familiar with that at all, and Philip's gonna have some homework on that to report back how exactly that works, but at a 5% rate, did you say the Green Valley portion for 1 year of kind of a carryover was about $250,000 or $260,000?
35,000.
235 just in interest.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And that's we have a draft rate right now from Wells Fargo. It's lower than the 5%. It's a simple interest calculation. If we're able to close in December and then take out the SWIFT funds by mid-November, it would actually be less than a full year. So I'm trying to give you a little bit higher number with the hopes of
No, I
coming in
appreciate
significantly lower than that.
conservative estimates.
Right, but it is financial, so between now and next Tuesday, rates could change. You know, never know how that's
And
gonna
that
work.
235 is all Green Valley, not a portion to us.
That's correct. That's Green Valley's share of the overall.
So just the interest we'll pay to span us to do it a year earlier is going to be more than half the total cost to Green Valley for the whole overage. Am I
Well, no,
saying that
because
right?
the Green Valley share of the whole overage is 4.7 million
I'm sorry, 4.7. I was
Sorry.
thinking about
of
just
the
the building.
building.
I have one final question. If this was starting back in 2017 and everyone pretty much knew the route that everything was going to have to go, why was land acquisition waited until after 2020 when everything got jacked up? Why wasn't land acquisition started back in 2017 or 2018 when property values were much lower than they are now, which could have saved potentially millions of dollars?
Sure, good question. So the way we went through the process is we knew generally where the water needed to be delivered and we knew where we were starting from.
Okay.
But we had to hire engineers to do more detailed
Find the
route
exact path.
analysis to figure out where we're crossing creeks, roads, properties that are impacted, to try and stay along boundary lines and not cut across properties as much as possible. Some cases that's not possible. We also had to do environmental analysis to make sure that we're not impacting waters of the US, that we don't have endangered species, that we are avoiding any other historical artifacts that could impact progress of the project. So once we got through that, then we could really in earnest start more on the land acquisition. And we did. We hired our land acquisition firm in 2018 to be involved in that. I will tell you that that we had several, I think, challenges. Not so much as we came down to the south, but the Permian Highway Pipeline. There's a big, large gas pipeline that cut across Caldwell County in 2018 timeframe, impacted a lot of landowners in that area and caused them to be more litigious than what we would normally expect. And so that's been a big challenge. And then frankly, and I hate using this word, but COVID impacted us. The difficulty in meeting with landowners to try and work deals, to try and move that forward was a tremendous impact to us. And then falling on that, the part that I certainly didn't see coming was the increase in land values as a result of more people wanting to move to this area of Texas in particular. I think partly because of the working conditions and other things that as a result of COVID drove that more. And so, yeah, in hindsight, could we have started this in 2013 and had that when land was a lot cheaper then? That would have been great. We would have been paying for it then, though, long before we would have had water available. And so there are several things that I think we look back on that we would like to do better. You know, here's where we are. And then again, our segment C line as we went north, that's been a particular challenge due to all the developments and again, all the work that the city of Kyle is doing with roadway bonds and that have been, we're trying to coordinate appropriately with those projects. So I'll give you lots of reasons or
No, that's
excuses,
good. Thank you. for
whichever
that.
way you look at those.
Okay, we still have a lot to get going. So does anybody have any final questions, comments, concerns?
Well, what are you looking for from the board today? Or is this?
I think it was in
purely
December that we were
informative?
going to be making a resolution to accepting the ban.
That'd be two different resolutions. The first would be to approve the amendment to the water supply contract, and then a separate action item to approve the ban. Yes,
And
sir.
that will be in December.
That'd all be in December. This is just an update to give you the preview of that request.
And we are going to get final interest rate numbers at that time.
Yes, sir. We'll have those depending on when your meeting is, but next Tuesday, we expect to have our final interest numbers ready and we can present
I
that
think we're
as soon as we have that.
we're booked for the 14th, but there's an item to discuss that. Is there any discussion of changing the 14th or?
We'll get to that one when we get to that.
Okay,
But
we're booked for
okay,
the
but
14th.
next
We
week
moved it
though,
up.
you'll have your numbers.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
And then please give us information to review in the packet. I'd love to have this presentation in the packet to look through. And then I wouldn't have been putting you on the spot for, or at least ideally, I wouldn't have been putting you on the
That's fair.
spot.
We'll make sure that we have that coordinated and make that.
And then
Sure.
staff, where are we going to find $4.7 million? I need to know from staff that this is how we pay for it. Philip's scrunching up his face. I know you got quite the list going lately, but I have to understand that we can afford to pay for it without a tremendous rate increase or something to move forward. So those would be my asks of staff for next month.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item number 11, review and discuss kayak fees and take action as necessary. Mr. Montgomery,
Item number 13.
13. Sorry. What did I say?
Your cheat-
Said 11.
Sorry.
Yeah, your Roman
13.
numerals are off.
Yeah, I get my cheat sheet. 13. Thank you.
Good morning again. The kayak report for the Santa Clara Creek sewer shed was in your packet. Plan to just run through it quickly and then open it up to questions. The first section is basically just history, how the district got into the wastewater business and where we're at this point. Part of setting fees is setting land use assumptions, and I have a couple paragraphs about those land use projections and how they are created or who has jurisdiction over regulating those. There's not a lot in this sewer shed because most of it is in the ETJ. So there's not a lot of control over land use and densities and all of those type of things. Section 3 of the report just digs a little deeper into the Santa Clara Creek sewer shed itself, talks about the jurisdictions, the cities, all of that, those things. Section 4 jumps into the current kayak fee and associated debt. The current kayak fee is $45.40. So anybody that comes in, typically developers that are developing property, they do a application for service. We prepare a feasibility study for that. It goes into a non-standard service agreement and then comes to the board for approval. Currently, $45.40 is paid per unit as construction plans are approved. So they'll go design unit 1, bring a plat and construction plans to Green Valley. Your staff and engineers will review those. Once we get ready to issue a construction plan approval, they will pay that fee, $45.40 times how many ever lots are in that unit. In 2019, the original kayak fee for the Santa Clara Creek sewer shed was established and approved by the board. We calculated that back in 2019 based on Chapter 395 of the Local Government Code. The reason we did that is that's a well-defined criteria. It's accepted by utility providers and developers alike. It's something that's defensible. This is not an impact fee. Chapter 395 is impact fee specifically for the district. Historically, the district has done on the water side impact fees, prepare the report, send that through TCEQ approval instead of going the committee route. For kayak fees, you don't have to go through all those steps. Kayak fees are related to impact fees, but they're not as regulated as impact fees are. But the board, or at least on the staff level, the direction was to use the same methodology to calculate the fee as a impact fee. But obviously there's just not the regulation of going through TCEQ or going through a committee to set that. It's your fees are set by the board. The Chapter 395 of the Local Government Code for impact fees, typically what you would do is 50% contribution as part of that impact fee. 50% of the calculated fee would be put into your rate structure. And that's the way it was calculated in 2019. Section 4.2 is the associated debt service. You've done 2 rounds of debt for the sewer system, both through Water Development Board. One was Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan for $40,710,000. Or sorry, the total is $40,710,000. The first one was $24,985,000. That was a 2019 issuance. And then I list out those projects that have been completed under that program. The second was a 2020 development fund issuance of $15,725,000. Of those 2 projects, part of that funding was for the Phase 1A segment. We had that project span both debt issuances and then our CID 06 Phase 2 transmission main was also, that was the bulk of that 2020 Development Board issuance. There was a third issuance. It's a TCEQ bond application that went in, and that covered the design fees for the wastewater treatment plant expansion, which will be detailed a little bit further in the report. As far as,
And I'm gonna interrupt you there, Gary.
Okay.
I thought that 3.9 was issued to finish the funding of the building, this building.
no,
So that's Philip, that's an additional
that was
issuance?
27,150,000 that had a number of water projects. The only sewer project was the design for the expansion of the
And
plant.
staff helped me after the contract was awarded for the building, we had to tack on another several million.
That's
So that's an additional issuance beyond the 3.9.
It was all in one issuance for 27,150 that was TCEQ approved.
But
That was
Philip,
the open market bond. And yes, there was, I want to say it was about 6 million. for
something,
this
I
building.
can't remember, but I remember there was an additional one. So those are 2 different, not one and the same.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Section 5 digs a little bit deeper into the sewer shed, talks about current developments. You have a number of developments that have started developing. Your first customer was AW Texas, the transmission facility on Bolton Road and IH-10. Legendary Trails is contributing flow to the plan at this point. You have Grace Valley, Cibolo Farms, and Dove Song that are all in construction, various phases of construction. Dove Song does not have active service at this point. They're just in construction of Unit 1 and Unit 2. And that's about 350 homes in Dove Song. Cibolo Farms is in construction at this point and has plat approval. Grace Valley is similar. We have approved plans through Unit 4 of that project. Marion Oaks, you have an agreement with. They're going through concept plan approvals with the city of Marion. And I talked to their engineer a couple of weeks ago, and they're working on Unit 1 plans for that one. So we should start to see plans and plats coming through for Marion Oaks. And Austin, we have reviewed the first 2 units of that development, and they're working through plat approvals with the city of Santa Clara. So that provides a listing of all the projects that are actually in construction or you have an agreement with at this point. On the far right of that table on page 8, I put in a cost or what the fee total would be. Third column from the right, what the fee is at the current rate. And then just to the right of that is the proposed rate, which we'll get to a recommendation here in a few minutes, but just shows the difference. If the board took our recommendation and increased the fee, that it would raise about $4.6 million in additional revenue to the district for debt service. The paragraph after that table just defines those projects. It's about 7% of the developable area in the sewer shed, so very small portion, but there is a huge development potential and lots of interest in that area.
One
Yes, sir.
quick question, the 4.6 or 7 million additional revenue, is that across the build out or is that annually or how? what
That's
is-
full build out.
That's full
So,
build out,
yeah,
okay.
whenever all fees are paid, it's a 4.6 million. The thing about kayak fees is the board could reevaluate annually, so it could go up and that number would obviously go up. We recommend looking at it at least every 5 years, especially in a growing system, but annually doesn't hurt if you're either adding debt or your growth rate is either way high or way low.
I mean, I absolutely agree. Anytime, we waited too long since 2019 to take a peek at this with
Yes.
the massive inflation we've had. so-
Right. Growth projections, this is just trying to show, as developments come on, you have a few developments that are in the works. We've had several that we're writing or have written feasibility studies on and that are going to contract. So if you add those in, so the table on page 9 shows all the contracted developments plus the ones that we've done feasibility studies on that we feel certain will go to construction or go to full contract. And current fee versus full build out and projected fee, it's about a $7 million, $7.2 million adder if you take our recommendation of what the fee would be. On page 10, top of page 10, the table there just shows what.
Gary, let me interrupt here real quick. Unless the board has different things to me, that we don't have page numbers, so I was gonna see if you could just
Okay.
establish.
I don't know why they
more
wasn't
clearly
printed.
that.
Yeah, reference your section number.
Okay,
5.2.
just above section 6. I don't know why page numbers didn't print out, but just above section 6, there's a table. And those are how we substantiated the growth rates. So we're showing new units coming on of these developments in future phases through 2033. So basically a 10-year projection. Just wanted to give you some background that we're not anticipating all of these developments happening, overnight. They're going to happen over time. The next page has the current debt capacity or what you have on the books as far as debt. That's table 4. Now we get into the recommendation. Your current rate is 45.40. Our recommendation is to go to 59.85 per LUE. It's a 32% increase to the fee. And I've provided a couple of, or there's more detail in the attachments of how we came up with that calculation. But table 5 shows a comparison of the adjacent utilities. Typically, we like to show this, but we don't, it's not a direct comparison. Every utility has their own needs and set their own fees. So it just depends on if you're a growing entity or you're pretty much built out. Several of these, for instance, Marion, is for the most intents and purposes built out. They have only a couple of tracks that could develop, and then a couple of infill lots that could come in. So they're not growing. They're not building a lot of capital assets. Go through the list. GBRA has just increased their fee to 6,800. So I think you're kind of moving to the top of the list there. Right now, you're kind of in the middle of those with Sarah and MBU and others. So I think our recommendation fits into the table pretty well. That we're kind of in the middle of the pack there, and covers your needs. Table 6 had some discussion with staff on this one, and we thought it was important to show what is your debt service and how many LUEs does it take to cover that debt service on an annual basis. This is no new debt. This is just current liabilities. The second column from the right has your current rate. So in, say, 2025, you need to set 446 services to meet your debt service. So no money out of your operating account if you set 446, and then you use your operating account for operations and maintenance. With our proposed rate, that goes down to 338. So you can see the benefit of increasing the cost. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody. If you increase the fee, you need less services. But I think that's a good kind of temperature check on, do we think we can hit 340, 350 homes? You have quite a few developments going on. We've been seeing, things have slowed down a little bit. Units are getting smaller. Back up 2 years ago, we were seeing 150 lot units. Now we're seeing 50 to 75 lot units. And that's developers not putting as much capital up at risk. It costs more to put in more lots. But I think this is still a reasonable approach. I think you can hit that number. You have hit that number in the years past. You have several developments that are in construction that will start going vertically very quickly in 2024.
On that note, can you, again, putting you on the spot, can you give us a number of connections we've had previously? And the reason I ask that is during our rate analysis presentation by
Record.
Yes,
Jen.
Record.
Yeah.
He stated that, hey, we missed our projections. So if we projected 600 units and we missed them, is in the 300, 350 range more reasonable compared to what we've
Yes.
done in the last couple of years on wastewater?
Yes, it is. And I mean, I think we're going to outpace that. I think the 350 or so is very achievable with the developments that we've seen and the plats that we've been reviewing. Developers are still putting homes on the ground. So I don't think we'll have any, unless something just drastically changes, I don't think we have any issue hitting that 350 mark, getting new home sets. Raymond, what about you? Yeah. So that kind of gets to the meat of the report. There's a couple of appendix or attachments. There's a sewer shed map and shows the developments that are in the area. It has chapter 24, subchapter F from the PUC rules on setting the rates, just so that you have that if you wanted to read through it. And then the very last page, at least in mine, is the detailed calculation on the kayak fees. And basically what we did was we recommended the 5-year lookout. So we did 10-year calculations also, but typically we look out 5 years. You really look out 10 years, the crystal ball gets pretty cloudy at that point. It's hard to tell what's going to go on. And I think that just circles back to the point that we need to look at this a little more often than every 5 or 10 years. So we did the calculations, again, 32% increase. It's about $1,445 is what we're recommending the increase to be. So 4540 to 5985. With that, I did have a couple of discussions with staff. I'll let them speak for themselves, but I think they're supportive of the report and the findings and recommendation, but feel free to jump in.
Just real quick, I think the main thing that stood out to me was just with the increase, the number of annual LUEs needed to meet our debt services is a big thing for me. Obviously 110, 120 less units per year is a lot more achievable.
Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? And correct me if I'm wrong, but we need to take action on this one.
Yes, you can, or if there's other questions or anything that we need to do homework on, we can bring it back to the December meeting, or you can approve it. We would need an effective date, and maybe Sam could help me out with that. Typically in the past.
Or a notice, 90-day notice or something?
That's where I was going. Typically, we'd given 90 days and send that out to all the developers and anybody that was under contract. But so we would just need an effective date if the board wanted to make a motion.
So my question real quick is, anybody that's currently on contract, their number is gonna change come that date if they haven't,
That's
gone
correct.
vertical or paid, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Yes, all the non-standard service agreements say you pay the fee at the time of submitting that plat. So it's per unit. So if they're in unit 3 and they submit unit 4 and they're in between that, they would pay the new rate. So
But
any new.
Even though they're still building out the old plat, they're on the old rate at that point, correct? Or is that those homes being?
Yeah, so they're at plat and plan approval, they're paying that fee. So they're locked in. We can't go back on them, but any new units would pay the new fee.
Got it.
Correct?
That's reasonable. I mean, that's reasonable. Are you done, John?
Anybody else having? I'm good.
I did have one clarification under section 4.2.
Okay.
Our total that was issued, infrastructure totaling 40,710,000. When I added the 24,985 plus 15,725 plus the 3,918,000, I came up with 44 million and change.
Okay, I may have missed that whenever I put that total in there. I
So
will
my,
verify that in an update.
and I might have done math wrong. I don't know. I only did it once. If our number is actually 44 million, potentially 10% higher, does that affect the recommended? And again, I might be completely wrong. So, does that affect the recommended kayak adjustment?
Let me run the math on it, but I don't believe so. The table looks to be correct.
Maybe just what was entered into the text.
Yeah, the table looks to be correct. So I don't think it modifies that, but I will definitely verify it.
Okay. And then,
And I will clean up that typo. I probably didn't add that in there.
I made my comment about, Mr. Eckert's, rate projections. We've got a comment about growth rates in here. The 32% increase, I looked at a couple different inflation calculators, and I was seeing just under that for simply inflation since 2019, year over year. So that was just inflation was my suggestion on, hey, let's take a look at this and adjust it to just capture inflation. So we're not
Right.
taking the inflation hit. We've had a couple other projects, so 32 in my mind seemed reasonable from how I was approaching it initially.
Yeah, we looked at that also. And the other thing is, luckily, you were ahead of the curve on getting all this stuff built and debt financed. So you got a big benefit from the lower interest rate for sure. And then construction costs have just gone crazy recently.
And then the last page under the summary of costs. So total, I came up with 56,413,000 and change.
We're on the
very last page table, it's not labeled, the Green Valley Contribution Aid of Construction Analysis table, the very last sheet. The previous number we'd been mentioned that we would need to potentially borrow against this project was 45 million, I believe.
Yes, the 45 million was construction cost. The 49,845 has all the soft costs built into it also. You have the bond counsel, financial advisor, the water development board fees that have to be paid up front at that loan. So that's all the soft cost included in.
And so those additional costs, we would just self-fund, or where do those get?
Historically, you've put it into the loan, but you could self-fund if you wanted, but this calculation includes it being in the loan calculation.
Because that's different than what Mr. Eckert calculated. He calculated just based on 45 million.
Construction cost.
Right.
Right.
But if we've got you follow where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure that
Sure.
we're
We've-
always talking apples to apples when we're
Yeah.
talking cost. So if a few months ago, we were talking 45 million, and personally, I bet you remember, that's a lot.
Sure, it
I
is.
was- I was wanted to figure out a way to pare that back.
Right.
But if now including some additional costs that weren't captured in that number, we're up to a different figure.
Right.
I just want to make sure I'm on the
Yeah,
I'm
and-
understanding.
And we won't have the final number until we know what interest costs are, but that's the number at this point based on 30% design of the plans, plus all the soft costs for issuance.
Okay, so at that time, do I have a motion?
Hearing all the discussion that we've heard and all the fine details, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation from UEG to increase our kayak fees to $9.85 per LUE.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Nick, take that one.
Okay, Nick seconds. So I have a motion by Bob Robertson and second by Mr. Nick Sherman.
Discussion.
Discussion.
We're gonna set an effective date of 90 days from tomorrow. Does that suit?
That's fine.
Yep.
Can
Okay.
notices go out?
Okay, we'll do it 90 days from next week. As
Okay,
soon as we get the
so
notices out, when we have a date that we estimate that the notices can
Can you
be out.
speak up? I
we'll-
can't hear even with the microphone.
I'm sorry. When we have the notices ready to go out, we'll do it. We'll get that date set and we'll update the board. And we'll set it as 90 days from when we estimate that those notices will be sent out.
so then next week is the 4th, December 4th through December 8th. So at latest, it would be 90 days from December 8th. Everybody good with that?
That's
Yeah.
what I would be tracking as well. Okay, with that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Item number 14, discuss issues related to the municipal utility district within GVSUD service area.
Is this something we can discuss now, or does it have to be an executive?
If there are specific legal questions about impact to Green Valley of a MUD being in its district, probably ought to be an executive session. If you would like to have a general discussion about MUDs and what they do and how they work, we could probably do that outside. So it's up to the board's discretion, how they
So
want to handle this.
This one's probably at my request. I've been speaking to Philip about this. I think I have specific legal questions about how it affects Green Valley with a MUD inside of our CCN, and exactly how all that happened. So
Okay.
if it's okay with the rest of the board, I'd like to move that to executive.
Okay, so we're gonna move that one to executive. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I had questions that probably shouldn't be set out.
All right, so we're gonna move that one later on. So we're going to item number 15. Review the non-standard water service agreement provided by GVSUD and take action as necessary. A, Seguin subdivision 3880 Interstate 10, Seguin, Texas 78155.
So the Seguin subdivision is over on the east side of the district. It's in Seguin's ETJ. My memo actually said New Braunfels ETJ, so I'll correct that. It's 10 commercial EDUs. They're asking for a 2-inch meter. I think they're building some warehousing there, four or five different buildings. They've been working with the city of Seguin. to get fire flow to that area. Right now, there's an existing 2-inch line that's at capacity with TCEQ's maximum number of connections. So in the report, we had them building an 8-inch line. It's served by smaller lines. There's a 6-inch line across I-10 that they would be tying into. So they're working with City of Seguin and the Guadalupe County Fire Marshal to put in a fire suppression tank. So they're not asking for fire flow on this one. It's simply just 10 commercial EDUs through a 2-inch meter.
So they're, sorry, beating the horse. They're putting a specific tank with water for firefighting.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
And who's managing that? And this is
They would own it. The property owner would own and maintain that tank.
okay.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve item A?
And I do have one question before I make a motion. The fire flow is always my question. Can we approve this pending the city's approval of their proposed tank?
Yeah, they have approved. So they're going through plating through the city, but the fire marshal has approved the tank being installed.
But you follow what I'm saying. I don't want us approve something and
Right.
then not have fire flow squared away
Yes.
first and then get into a muddy
Yeah,
mess.
the fire marshal has approved them putting in a tank.
So he has approved
Yes.
their alternate tank?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we always make sure of that because of that issue. We don't want to give any illusion that we're providing fire flow. We actually did. This was the second study. The first study was providing fire flow and it was about $1.8 million in offsites for commercial buildings. So it just didn't work for them.
Okay, with that explanation, I'll make a motion that we approve the non-standard water service agreement for the Seguin subdivision, 3880 Interstate 10, Seguin, Texas, 78155.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, unanimous. Okay, moving on to item 15B, River City Heavy Haul. 1097 West Zip Road, New Braunfels, Texas, 78130.
And this one is the complete opposite of that. They're just requesting fire flow. They have a facility there that has service off of Zip Road. They're required to have fire flow through the city of New Braunfels. They're in the ETJ. So the New Braunfels Fire Marshal is the jurisdiction there. They have to extend a water line 469 feet to include their property and set a fire hydrant. And the landowner has agreed to pay the costs that are in the study. So I think we're good to go. But no domestic service. They already have the service that they need. They just need fire flow.
Big line are they extending?
It'll be an 8-inch. Right now it's a 4-inch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're replacing a 4 with an 8.
And they're funding that.
They're
Okay.
they're funding that. Right. And there's significant fire flow in this area. I was looking yesterday in preparation of the board meeting. I was looking at the fire flow test and there's like 5,300 gallons per minute at the tie-in point. So there's plenty of fire flow.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the non-standard water service agreement with, for River City Heavy Haul, 1097 West Zip Road, New Braunfels, Texas, 78130.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Item number 16, consider utility engineering group recommendation to accept the CIP bid award. The 2023 alternate highway 90 and River Road, number 8-inch water main extension project to include authorizing and acting general manager to sign all necessary documents and take action as necessary.
This project was advertised recently and we opened bids. Lots of interest in projects bidding right now, so that's good. I think we got good pricing. We had 8 qualified bids. What I just handed out to you is a map that shows this had a base bid plus 2 alternates, so I thought it was important to show the board what those alternates are. To illustrate that, on the map there, the green segment is a development that made application to Green Valley for service. At this time, they have not opted in to pay for their portion of that, so we wouldn't build that. But the blue portion and the red portion are allocated funds. The blue portion is the base bid. The red on the map is for Hidden Oaks Apartments that you have a contract to serve with a domestic meter and a fire hydrant. So our recommendation after opening bids is to go with R.L. Jones. And let's see, the total bid is $450,590.50. It was advertised in the Seguin Gazette for 2 consecutive weeks, placed on the Green Valley website and on Civcast for bid advertisement and distribution. So with that, that's our recommendation, and open it up for questions. Our recommendation is for base bid plus alternate A.
Thank you for this. I was looking for this, exactly what's included in the 2 alternates and why we need to do them.
Yeah, I was hoping to get it done last week, but I ran out of wheat. So we did it yesterday.
In the apartment complex, we've already got to deal with.
That's
Are they
correct.
funding the red segment?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then on your bid tab, I had one question. So your total on the first sheet of it is labeled total base bid A. And then your first alternate is labeled total alternate bid A. But then your recommendation is labeled total base bid A plus B. Is that just a typo?
Yes, that is a typo.
Okay.
I didn't catch that. Yes. Yeah, we're recommending the base bid plus alternate A at a total of $450,590.50.
Which is the red segment, which the alternate is funded by that apartment complex.
That's correct.
Perfect. And then Philip, how do we pay for this?
I have to review the budget line items, but I believe we have a line item for water line maintenance. Well, this wouldn't be maintenance, this would be.
The
I'll
capital,
look at ways to do this. We might have to move some monies on the capital budget for this water line increase.
because under the unaudited financial report, we have no, that's bond. Construction plant upgrades, Green Valley water plant upgrades, water line construction, but that's impact fees. Is this eligible to be paid out of impact fees? So we could pay for it out of the construction/plant upgrades, Green Valley funded line item on page 5 of our unaudited financial report. Water line construction upgrade, parentheses, impact fees, where we have $1.5 million.
Right, we should be able to pay out of that account.
Okay. Are you aware of any other major projects that'll be coming out of that account?
I'd have to review the capital budget again, just to get back to you on that. But, you know, if we've determined that this is a high priority, get water to, I believe this is for that apartments. So, the board has specified in the past when this came up, I think we've been working on this for a few months now, that this was a high priority project. So, we'll make it happen.
Just to clarify, the apartments are the ones, a few months ago, we brought an issue to you where a well had went dry. This is solving that problem.
This is the one with the pallets of water that had been going back and forth, so. Okay, if there's no other further questions or discussions, do I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion to, let me make sure I read this correctly. Approve or accept the CIP bid and award the 2023 alternate Highway 90 and River Road 8-inch water main extension project to R.L. Jones, including the base bid plus the single alternate in the total amount of $450,590.50. Did I get that right? Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, going on to item 17, consider formal wastewater CCN transfer agreement of approximately 14 acres between GVSUD and the city of Schertz related to the previous board approved Mustang Oaks request and take action as necessary. Who's gonna do that one? Is that one pulled?
This one is brought back to you guys. We had received word back from the PC. Shan, please correct me if I'm wrong, that there was some errors.
Oh,
on
I'm
the-
sorry. I can take over this. I apologize, Philip. Getting to be a long meeting. This item is Mustang Oaks. The board back in May approved release of this small sliver out of this tract to Schertz, which is right adjacent. It's only a small portion of the property was inside our CCN area. The PUC had a technical issue with notice because our board agenda item referenced Mustang and wastewater CCN and release, but it didn't mention specifically transfer of that CCN to Schertz. And so we're basically cleaning up a problem that the utility commission created for us. They're delving into things they've never delved into before. So they thought that notice was perhaps not sufficient to let everyone know that the CCN was going from Green Valley to Schertz. And so I brought this back to be basically reapproved. Since that time, the PUC, I think it was Wednesday before Thanksgiving, suggested that we might be able to take care of it by just simply signing a sworn affidavit to the effect that the board intended to, by that item, they went into executive session and they intended by that item to approve the actual transfer to Schertz. However, I don't know if that's going to fly or not, so I'm just recommending that we just do this one more time with a proper inclusion of the city of Schertz in the description of the agenda.
Sorry. With that being said, do I have a motion to approve this agenda item?
I guess I'll make a motion to approve the formal wastewater CCN transfer agreement of approximately 14 acres between GVSUD and the city of Schertz related to the previous board approved Mustang Oaks request.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Robinson seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Who abstained? Nick?
Mr.
abstained?
Sherman abstained.
I'm not gonna take action on CCN transfers.
Very
That's-
good.
That's too close.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 18, consider formal amended water CCN transfer agreement of approximately 21.83 acres between Green Valley SUD and the city of Schertz related to the previous board approved Texas Multifamily Capital LLC request and take action as necessary. Same situation?
Generally, this was kind of a double whammy. The city of Schertz issue was an issue with the PUC that their staff recommendation came out on the same day as the one for the Mustang deal. But also there was some inconsistency in what the agreement referenced as far as the acreage compared to what the mapping showed. And we've had to work. Gary can provide more update on the PUC's mapping requirement, but this is technically an amended agreement, so it's just to correct the acreage. Other than that, it's what y'all previously approved.
Okay. Thank you. So with that being said, do I have a motion?
I will make the motion to approve the water CCN transfer agreement of approximately 21.83 acres between GVSUD and the city of Schertz related to the previous board approved Texas Municipal Capital LLC request.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Unanimously approved.
Did Nick abstain or did you? vote?
This is water.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to number 19, review and discuss previously approved 2023 GVCD board meeting date of December 14th, 2023, and take action necessary. So based on from what I'm hearing, we are going to have the December 14th meeting to take care of emergencies that need to be addressed. So,
Yes, I would recommend that we maintain that date,
Okay.
or at least maintain having a meeting in December.
okay, does anybody on the board already have scheduled to where they're not going to be in attendance? Everybody's going to be good? Okay. Thank you
Is
for
it gonna
that.
be a meeting like this, or is it,
The 9 a.m. meeting.
okay, but is it gonna be extended meeting like this, or do we expect?
Okay, going on to item number 20, hear updates on the below items from GVSUD General Counsel and take action necessary. Shan?
Let me turn to that page real quick. As far as pending or threatened litigation, I'm going to provide an update to the board in executive session on pending litigation. I'm not aware of any threatened litigation, but I do have another potential litigation matter also to discuss with the board in executive session. And as far as legal changes affecting the district, the item related to the mud within a sud concept, I think is appropriate under that. So we're already taking that into executive session. And also I plan on briefing the board on the House Bill 4087 that we also discussed earlier. So that's all I have for there. As far as executive session is concerned, we do need to take all four of those items into executive session along with item 14.
Okay, so at this time, what we're going to do is we're going to take a 10-minute recess and then we're going to convene into executive session right after that. So time is 12:05. David, we good? All right, time is 1:58. We're going back into open session. Okay, so item number 25, consideration of possible action on items discussed in executive session. Currently, we have none. Going to 26, consideration of proposed items to be included on next month's board agenda. Do you have any? Other committees? Yep.
And then I'd like to have a discussion action item related to Texas Solutions Group.
Okay, anything else?
Do we have to make a formal?
All right, if that's it, going to item number 27, adjournment. A motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
That concludes it. Thank you.